recorder's on. Call to order the working meeting, when is today? Today is the December 15th, 2025, the working meeting for the City of Cherokee Village to order. Everybody had kind of get a moment to digest all the paperwork. This is going to be the biggest issue, or the biggest item tonight, probably going to be about the budget.
When I was looking at the agenda, I know it says that I can, at the top of the page, budget, Heather Harrison, but do we need to put that as new business to discuss possibly trying to pass it? Like, does it need to be in the number 3 on the new business to actually attempt?
Yeah, because it has to be passed as a resolution or an ordinance. I'd rather pass it as a resolution. Resolutions can be changed, ordinances are a little harder to do.
I believe it has to be done by an ordinance because it deals with minutes. I'll double check.
Okay, double check, because
So
last
just-
I looked, it was ordinance or resolution, we can, whatever. But yeah, it'll have to be moved to new business before it can be voted on. I mean, if that's something the council wishes to do.
We can put it
I'm
to a
all
vote.
about moving forward with it.
We can put it to a vote. I just thought it might need to be on the line item.
Yeah. Let's see, where we start. We've had 2 correspondences this month that's going to be talked about. Miss Hannah Eisenberg, she had sent a correspondence in, like, it was, when we got it, like the day of the city council meeting last month, or the day before, it was like up there at,
You're way past the deadline.
yeah, it was way past the deadline, so we had to move it to this month. But her house that she's building out on Calcan, number 7 Calcan Trace, is out of permit. She's been building on it since 2021. She was wanting to come to the city council meeting to ask the council about reissuing her another permit to continue on with her house. Last I talked to Charlie, they're in discussions, is what he told me. They're in discussions trying to get it figured out. It's kind of been she's had some, she's got a big long letter in the correspondence, but it's, she's had some personal issues and stuff, so one reason is delayed, so she's gonna, let me see here, it says, I mean,
Do you have a goal for
I do, it says this is the letter she put in is about the recent notices of violations on a property at 7 Calcan Trace. The original permit was issued in 2021, reapplied in 2023, paid the permit fee again, and continued construction in January 2023. As no substantial progress has been made on this project since 2023. And according to the city ordinance regulations, it says the permit was issued in 2023, had an incorrect expiration date of 2026. After discussion on November 4th, 2024, a verbal agreement was agreed on a completion date of September 30th, 2025 by both parties. As of the current date, this project has not proceeded or completed as agreed upon. Charlie, our code enforcement officer, has met with Miss Hannah, and they agreed to a 30-day extension to complete and or clean up the property. They did that on, does that mean they did it on December 10th? Yeah, they made the agreement on December 10th, so he gave her a 30-day window to figure out, to make some substantial completion or clean up the property. Well, that, she's, oh, there's, I didn't see you there, I'm sorry. If you have any questions with Miss Hannah, she is, but she's gonna be, I mean, my understanding, you're looking for the city council to give you permit,
Well, the permit date was April of 27, is what this permit that was just removed from me. And when they said we had agreed on September 30th, there wasn't really an agreement at all at that particular time. I had nothing in writing on anything. The construction itself itself started January of '23.
Okay.
So, but we had to have a permit before when I went to the bank. The bank would not actually allow any funding whatsoever without a building permit already approved and ongoing. And I also had to pay for builder's risk for, all that was almost a whole year, we didn't get to use any of that stuff.
Okay.
So it was useless. And unfortunately for me, I got to meet Charlie when he first came because they required another building permit. Brand new building permit from the very get-go.
Now,
So that, this is the second permit that was just released, taken away. So actual construction, physical construction itself started January 23.
okay.
And we built all the way up till March of 24. And then we had a lot of different surgeries and medical issues and everything else. The bank came out on October. Someone had put a sign on the property that it was condemned. And thankfully, the bank had the wrong date in its calendar, because when I went there on Monday, that's when the sign was up. No notice, no nothing as to why it was condemned. Talked to Charlie, and took it down in time for Tuesday morning, the following day, when the bank came out. So they could review the property and find out, how it looked and everything else. The bank loved the property. They loved what we've done construction-wise. Those of you that may have gone by the house, it's wrapped. So you don't see, everything maintains its integrity for as long as it has. And then the bank took from October of 24 to the last week of April of 25 to give me approval on the refi. And then in May is when my world went completely upside down.
Man, 7 months? Wow.
Yeah, so that's the chronological time.
Well, and also, I've never heard of the city issuing a building permit for 4 years. Usually it's year over year, year per year. It's not, they don't just say, here's your 4-year-long building permit.
Yeah.
It's,
Right.
in the ordinances, part of the ordinances is you have to make substantial progress. Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, Charlie's not here tonight, so I think that's unfortunate that we could have his side of
Right.
the commentary as well. I've heard from a number of your neighbors over the years that your construction has been in progress, and I believe personally from their comments that those comments go back before 2023 when your construction was started and your material sat on site for extended periods of time. I have all the sympathies in the world about family health issues and challenges. But man, with all due respect, you've had an inordinate amount of time to start, complete your project. You've had neighbors out there on it's on Lake Omaha, right?
Yeah, it's on Chinook.
Chinook, my apologies. But you've had neighbors sell their properties because of the condition of your property, the fact that materials sat on site for extended periods, particularly the straw bales that went uncovered. And so I received a multitude of complaints over time, and I believe that your construction started prior to Charlie Akers' arrival as the code enforcement. Ma'am, please, with all due respect, I let you speak. Give me an opportunity to respond. So, I personally, as a councilman, we have an obligation not just to you, but to your neighbors and to everyone within the city to properly enforce code enforcement rules within this community. And you have had an inordinate amount of time to complete your project. I believe at this point, unless Mr. Akers can come before the council and give his side of the construction, and whether or not you're going to have a habitable property, and that it can reasonably be expected to be completed in a reasonable time frame, I believe your time has gone way beyond any reasonable level of expectations that any resident might have. So I think Mr. Akers needs to provide a complete report to the council so that we can make an informed decision. You have my sympathies about your family's health conditions and everything, but this is not your first conversation with planning and zoning. It's not your first conversation with members of the community, and it's long past for your, rather, I will say, unusual construction project and the utilization of hay bales for insulation
Yes,
and
which is by code
And-
from 2021.
and the barn that you took down and reestablished those materials. So I think that at the end of the day, we need to hear from our code enforcement officer to make an informed decision as to whether or not to extend your permit beyond
So,
what I understand is 4 years of project.
Well, that's what it may seem like. There was Tom Ryder, who was a council person, who immediately, when we started bringing materials on, threatened to bring out a 410. We can go and ask the police chief, because he was going to actually hold him for terrorism. And I've been bullied this whole time with this project. The neighbor that you're talking about is from Memphis. She never was there, and she started calling the city right away before she even lives there.
And
And you're talking about Linda and Bruce, who come from Arizona, where there's a lot of straw bale. They were absolutely lovely, lovely people, and she missed being on her farm in Arizona, which is where.
and I understand, I'm not here to dispute the design of your home.
No, but you're stating things that are also skewed. Be very.
But the
just-
controversies on your construction project go back to when Mr. Ryder was involved in city administration,
Yeah.
okay? And he's been off of council for a long time. So all I'm saying is that I'm suggesting to the mayor and to the other council members here present and yourself, we need to hear the other side of the conversation from the animal control officer. I'm sorry, from the code enforcement officer. My apologies.
Mayor, will
My error.
Charlie be here Thursday night?
I can see if he will. His mother-in-law passed away this morning, so.
I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, so then I think where we're at is until Charlie can be here and she can be here, we're kind of,
Yeah,
it's a
he
dead
said
stick.
she said.
So can.
So you're saying that Charlie never talked to you and
Oh,
you
no,
never
no,
made a
Charlie-
30-day agreement?
No, we were on the site on Thursday.
Okay, but Charlie was saying that you and him agreed to a 30-day extension to either make substantial completion or to clean up the property.
Clean up the property, yep.
And you're saying that you never made such a,
Oh, no, I'm talking about when it came before on the permit, with regards to the September 30th day.
yeah, I'm talking about, it says on
No,
December
Charlie and I
10th.
met- Charlie and I met this Thursday.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure if
Right.
he's saying that he made an agreement with you, but you said that he never made an agreement, so I don't know.
No, we did make an agreement on Thursday.
And that
And that
was,
Thursday was to actually tidy up that property.
okay. That's, okay.
I'm sorry, could you clarify, because I don't understand, because the mayor's saying one thing and you're saying something else.
But
The mayor's saying that the agreement that was made by our animal control, or the code enforcement officer was that you were to either clean up the work site or complete the work.
Well, I'd love to be able to complete the work. Financially, I just don't have it. I'm not signing any refund papers unless I know absolutely I can pay for it. Now, the bank is also being squeezed at the same time. And I'm just very fortunate that the bank has been extremely supportive of this all. Otherwise, perhaps you can lend me some advice as to what you would do in this situation.
Are you willing to provide the code enforcement officer your correspondence from the bank that you have financing committed by the
Oh,
bank?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say or suggest. Obviously, getting Charlie here is the most important thing, but the level of transparency, if we move forward on your part, is going to have to be substantially more than what probably would be required otherwise, because we have to see that this is actually moving. And it's not about trust, it's about making sure, to his point, that we can address other constituents that have issues with this and assure them that we have followed up and we're fact checking and we're looking to a solution, not just taking everyone's word for it.
And, that part I understand,
Okay.
absolutely. But it would be nice too to have the same transparency from the city. I've never not been given notices or anything. I go to the site and I see a notice on the door that the permit's been removed. They don't tell you ahead of time what's going to happen. The notice of violation I did get, but then I was also told that letters were sent out. I never received a letter in any way. I asked for a copy of the letter, and as I stated in my letter to both Charlie and copied in to the mayor, they said that they had a new provider and some of the files were lost, and my file was one of them, so they didn't even have a copy of the letter to show me.
And also one of the ways,
Right.
also you have to make sure that we have a valid phone number and a good address.
Oh, you do. My legal address has always been the post office box. It's been very disheartening for me since coming to Cherokee in 2007. I've just moved for the 8th time. Because most of the rental houses, after a while, they want to sell their home, which is not my fault, but I'm grateful for them. And out of the 8 homes, there was only one home that I chose to leave. So to me, this property is very important, and I would like to die in it. And not move again, I would have loved to have had all the funds that I spent on the moving costs.
Yeah, I think the goal is to try to make sure that we're gonna have, that you're gonna be able to complete the project. It would be a lot better to complete it than to have to tear it down, condemn it and tear it down, so it would be better for completion. So if there is a avenue that you can get paperwork to prove that, whatever, and we can set a date for completion, not
I love that too.
a 2027 date, a realistic date.
Well, it's been joyous just recently finding contractors that are not from our area at all. That are very familiar with what is necessary to finish the job, and I'm very excited about it. And so then I felt really squeezed trying to figure out how to go ahead and arrange the additional $1,000 I need a month to pay off the notes. I've been doing really well thus far, and it's all on Social Security.
Could you do me a favor before you leave and make sure Miss Penny has your phone number and address and all that, to make sure it matches everything we have for records?
Yes.
All right.
Mayor, so that this doesn't remain kind of up in the air, do you want to give her a set date of when she needs to turn in the paperwork, the correspondence from the bank to Charlie?
Yeah.
So that we start getting some resolution one way or the other?
Yeah, I would say go ahead and stick with the 30-day extension that was agreed on with Charlie originally, so 30 days from the 10th of December, so
Yes, sir.
be the second week of January. Was you Miss Hannah?
Yes, sir.
The paperwork you're talking about, can you have it, bring it in, and we can set it to planning and zoning, Charlie look at it, and we can kind of sit down
Do you want it to
and,
come from here, or do you want it to come from the bank directly? Would you feel more comfortable?
I'd say Charlie'd probably want it from the bank.
yes, get it sent from the
Okay.
bank, and we'll
Then
get
what I'll
it.
do is I'll get a hold of Charlie for his email address, and then I'll have Fred, First Community, send it to him.
It's on, should be online, but, yeah, and we'll just stick to the 30-day agreement, it was already there, we'll revisit it in January. Sound good, Miss Hannah?
Oh, yeah, I'll get it to him by the end of this week.
All right, we'll revisit it in January. And the second correspondence was the animal control letter, or, let me rephrase that, from the volunteers at the animal control letter.
Is there another copy of this for Heather?
It's right here.
I feel like this year during budget season, we killed a couple of trees with all the papers.
What was the reason why we got away from our laptops and went back to paper? I can't remember.
It's because they're quirky and they was updating, they would shut themselves off, somebody would hit the wrong button and get off the page and couldn't figure out how to get back on the page. And they took up, we have a very limited amount of space up there, and it took up a lot of space.
I wonder
And we
if
put
we could,
everything, and we put everything online, everything's on the city website, so if you wanna bring an iPad
Yeah.
and log into the city's webpage, you can look it up online.
There it is.
And it takes up less space, and we don't have to maintain 9 computers that don't work most of the time. We're actually trying to get them cleaned up and, like we voted on in the last meeting, get them redistributed to the departments that can use them, I think. Trying to get one out to, Miss Megan needs to pick one up, take it out to animal control. Well, you wanna get into the big one, Miss Heather?
Yeah, if you're ready.
And talk about the budget?
So Misty printed out all these pages for y'all, so this is gonna be the proposed budget unless we want to change any of the numbers before Thursday, and then those numbers can be proposed instead. So honestly, you know, if y'all have gone through these numbers, which most of these numbers were the same from November. There's been a few changes, so let's just start with administration. We'll go in alphabetical order. And if y'all got any questions as to why something is a certain amount on a budget item, I can answer that. Otherwise, I can just give you the cliff notes of each department. So we're starting with administration. I gave y'all a few notes. We discussed in last council meeting. One of the big question marks that we need to address so that we know how to set the budget is deciding whether or not treasurer becomes full-time. And I just kind of did some math for us, just in case anybody had concerns about the amounts or anything. But the difference between having a part-time treasurer, 20 hours a week, which she's, from what I've been told, she only works about 13 hours a week. But if we had a treasurer truly part-time, half the week at 20 hours, versus treasurer becoming full-time position, and we would, that full-time position would only be working 32 hours a week, so we'd save 8 hours per week on that. And adding all the benefits incurred by that is about a $16,000 difference. To have a full-time office manager, a full-time treasurer. I talked to Misty, and other than a once-in-a-blue-moon occasion, there shouldn't have to be any part-time work to cover phones or shifts. They should be able to alternate between vacations and work that out in the office. So the budget number reflects the treasurer becoming full-time. So unless we want to discuss otherwise, that's what's going to get proposed on Thursday night. And just to be clear with the council, I just put on there that salaries, administration budget, mayor, clerk, office manager, and treasurer, the salaries on the budget include a 3% raise. So is there any questions y'all have for me for administration?
I've got a quick question. Mayor, with us having, or you, sorry, having to appoint a special administrator over SID now, is that person going to be compensated? And if so, does it fall under the city to pay them or SID?
In the city.
It's
It's
the
gonna
city.
fall-
Probably,
city.
to be honest with you, that's to be seen yet, but yeah, somebody will have to pay them. I mean, I don't know, I heard you say SID, but I mean, somebody will have to pay them, whether it's the SID or the city, somebody's got to pay them. Because it says in the law that they're to be compensated for their time. Now, $1 is a compensation, if you can find somebody that'll be willing to volunteer.
Well, with the deadline approaching, is that not something we kind of need to know? Like before we approve the budget, like who's gonna pay?
My understanding, if I can interject, is that Sid would be the special administrator.
Why is that your understanding? Why is that your understanding?
Where is he going into?
Well, is it in the completed paperwork saying this is what needs to be done, and this is how it would be handled, or?
No, it just, the law says that the administrator may be compensated for their services. So he or she's going in to sit as an administrator, therefore Sid should be paying that administrator. That's government oversight.
Well, like I said, it's to be seen which one, but somebody will have to pay something.
Well, in
So
between-
do we have that question posed to an attorney or something at this point? I mean,
Or
Go
could we actually, between now and Thursday's council meeting, could we actually ask the current chairman of the SID commissioners whether or not they would agree, the current SID commissioners would agree that the administrator would be paid for by SID?
I can ask.
And that's a yes or no.
I have no issue with that at all, but I want an attorney to tell us
Yeah.
who's supposed to pay. I mean, because they can agree to whatever, but I don't want an attorney to come back on us and say, oh, no, the city's gonna pay
No, I don't
this, so-
disagree.
Yeah,
But SID's attorneys don't work for the city. We can contact the city attorney,
yeah.
or we can contact the municipal league, but we don't have a right to go to SID's attorneys. So
No,
I
that's not
wanna
what I'm saying.
Clarify which attorney you want their opinion.
Our attorney,
attorney.
Okay.
and it wouldn't hurt my feelings for our attorney to reach out to the judge's office and get some clarification. So,
Yeah, no, I agree.
yeah,
But I think we should be able to accomplish that between now and Thursday night.
agreed.
Any questions about administration? I will say, just to be clear, that we kind of honed in on the revenue, so we don't have a substantial, compared to what we budgeted last year, not a huge increase. We were kind of conservative on the revenue. The only other bigger things is, it seems to be that we're saving more money than we thought on workman's comp, but everything else is clearly in the budget, if y'all have any questions.
So as a department, what is the percentage increase in the proposed 26 budget versus 25?
For revenue or expenses?
No, for admin. You're looking at admin.
But are you wanting to know the difference between the revenue or the
Expense.
expense? It looks like we are $5,440 less in 2026 than we were in 2025 on expenses.
So admin has gone down
Yes.
in the proposal. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Most of the departments was able to go down.
It looks like in 2025, the expenses for admin was $319,650, and this year I've got it down as $314,210. So $5,440 less than 2025.
Total expense.
Yes.
Payroll?
Total on labor expenses for 2026 is $181,100, and in 2025 it was $187,100.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
So do our numbers reflect, I know we've got to make a decision about the treasurer, but do the numbers already reflect Skylar's position going away if we were to up the treasurer position to full-time?
That's my understanding, but
I believe it does. I believe it does. When she did it, it was just for 2 full-time, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's what's in the budget right now.
26 was for two full-time.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Which is going back to two full, you know, it always had been full-time until I come in as mayor, and then that's when Miss Deb Wackinger got to be, you know, appointed as treasurer, and she asked for it to be part-time, so it didn't interfere with her retirement package, so we just kind of went along as a part-time, and it's time. It needs, Misty needs some full-time help in the front office. That'll be there on a daily basis.
Okay, moving on, animal control.
Well, do we want
Oh,
to
sorry.
talk about these things and address them as we go, or are we going to hold off on all that for Thursday, or?
I think we can try and work out as many kinks as we can in the working meeting so
Yeah.
that perhaps we have a shorter and more concise, meeting Thursday. And I thought that's what we were here for.
Yeah.
What you got, Miss Pamela?
Well, no, my thing is, us deciding is that what we want to do, is increase the treasurer to full-time? I mean, I just want to make sure everybody's voices are being heard and opinions and discussions
I
on
would
anything we
say
got in
it
front of
was
us.
only because, based on last council, it got proposed and no one seemed to oppose it.
Yeah.
So, which
That
is kind of
happens a
why
lot,
we, yeah, well, I mean, we've got the
We
same
don't
amount of
discuss it,
people
yeah.
here as we did. So, and that's why, it's the mayor agreed to it. We've gotten Misty's opinion in the office about it. And so just, that's where we are, and we can, if we need to raise up reasons we don't need to. Like I said, I feel like there's about a $16,000 increase to make that happen. So that's really kind of what it boils down to, is willing to spend that money for a betterment in the office.
Well, my opinion, being that we're kind of taking the time to kind of talk about opinions, is that position is too critical for the function of the city, and I would like for there to be a little bit more of a dedicated presence. I know that, to err is human. I've made many mistakes and will make many, many more, but I know that we have written checks erroneously. We've double paid people. So I would like a lot more attention to be in this area. And I also know that support, being for the front office when people come in and calling, that support is critical. So I actually believe that this is a good place to spend a little bit more money. That's just my opinion.
And even, like Miss Heather said, even with two full-time budgeted, it's still $5,000 less than what we had last year.
Yep.
Where did we end
the-
up with this budget? Where did we end up at the end of the day?
On
this year's-
2025?
No, on 2026. Total, didn't we, last meeting, weren't we at, what, was it 200?
Right
Mi-
now,
mi-
it's, right now, it's got it down to 138,434.
Hold on, I don't know if I have that. 138 what?
434,
434.
It's on the
thank you.
schedule.
Okay.
which is, to be honest with you, that's the closest, it's been since I've been mayor. But and just to give you I got these numbers printed out today from the 2024, 2024 budget, which was, the proposed budget was 392,411 was the difference, and we actually come in 166,304 under revenue. So, our department heads, and we've got good department heads that are frugal with the money, and they don't, just because it's in the budget, we don't spend it if it's not there. We don't see the revenue coming in, we hold back and don't spend it. But we've been blessed, since I've been married, to have, good revenue coming in. We got, like I said, I think a lot of the Dollar General store and the Casey's store, that helped out a lot. If we had a couple more stores like that, it would tremendously help.
But how much did we take out of our reserves last year total? Does anybody have that number?
I don't have that number. That would,
Yeah.
I think I need to start a separate, like, when we, like, throughout the year, when we're pulling the 30,000 here and the 10 out, I mean, there just needs to be a whole separate piece of paper, just so we can clearly at the end of the year say, what did we approve as a council to grab out of reserves?
That would be
But
very, very
but I mean, he
beneficial.
does have beginning and end, you know, I mean.
That is true.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
but still, to just get more detailed, it's
Yep.
just something else to,
Because I think we have to keep that, you know, in our forethought as well.
Yeah, and that one piece of paper is the bank balances as of today. Now, that's just FNBC. I didn't see it until after, but we do have an account at First Community. But, that's just the FNBC account.
Well, this is not going to be a popular opinion, and it's nothing personal against anybody. I would give the shirt off my back to anybody in this room. But when the city's got the problems that we have, and some of those problems are multiplying, I have always, you can go back 16 years, and I have always held this opinion, and I will always hold this opinion. Like I said, it's nothing personal, but I will always have a problem with any elected official getting a raise when we've got some of the problems that we have in the city. So that's my only nix on this, but I'm just one voice, and I think I'm the only voice that probably feels that way. So,
So are you specifying public elected official?
Yes,
or
elected.
employee?
elected,
Which one?
elected. I didn't say anything about employee, elected.
Okay, well, then I would go back to the budgets that we approved for 8 years during the previous mayor's administration, when this council, under similar
I've always had a problem
fiscal
with it.
restraints, had increases.
I know, and I've always had a
Every
problem
year.
with it. I've always had a problem with it.
I
It's not-
understand.
Yeah, not a child.
But it's
I'm
not,
just
but it's not
voicing-
unprecedented, is what I'm
No,
saying.
not, definitely not, but I'll go
And-
back to what I just said. I've always had a problem with it, I always will, and, but I'm just one voice, so, and it's the unpopular vote, so it's not like it's gonna be a big deal or make any kind of difference.
No, and I
But
understand.
that's my statement, and we have a lot of citizens that feel that way, so. But other than that, that's my only little kink there, so.
But those are only 2 salaries out of an entire city budget.
I agree,
Because you only have 2 paid elected officials.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Again,
I'm not disputing with you.
Right.
I just want to clarify where your concern is. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Where do you want to go next?
any other questions on administration?
Nope.
Animal control?
Okay, so before we begin here on animal control, you know, we're taking things alphabetically, and that's fine. I passed out something that has a blue header on it, and that was from Misty. And this was in an email that was sent out that explained, trying to address some of my concerns. Everyone has different opinions about how animal control runs or doesn't run. But we have a department that their budget, if we go back to 2023, salaries in 2023 and 2024 budgets were in the mid 45 range, roughly 44 to 40, call it 45,000 when you come to salaries. And I will admit, I was asleep or less attentive, primarily because of family health issues that were going on in my family last year at this time of year. And so I didn't pay attention to the 35% increase in salaries in this year's budget, 2025 versus 2024, which was unprecedented in the city. We don't have another department that has a year-over-year increase of 35%.
Question.
So we went from 44 to 60,000. You can see that in the 24 budget under payroll, under salaries. We went from 44 to 60,000 budgeted. And if you look further down, you know, in 2025, at the time of this email, and I'd have to go back when the email came out, but I believe it was last month in November, the overtime that had been paid to two positions was over $5,600, which means the budget was overrun and overexpended on salaries by about 9%. And I know because I've had conversations with our police chief and I've had conversations with our fire chief. They're very, very careful with their overtime. I'm not making any judgment, I'm not taking any personal. This is not personal, it's the numbers. And the numbers are, we went up 35% in salaries for 2025. And then we spent an additional $5,600, and this is as of last month, so I don't know what the updated overtime numbers are, but we exceeded budget. And in my 11 years of sitting on council, we've never exceeded a department budget to this extent without a department head coming before council and requesting some sort of accommodation and a notification that they were going to go over significantly above budget. And then when I look at the numbers, because they haven't changed on here, we're still at 136.5, which means that now the salary increase, just the salary that's in the proposed budget, let alone any potential overtime, goes from 60,000 to 73,000, which is over 20% increase. We don't have another department in this city. And again, this is nothing personal. I don't have an axe to grind. What I'm saying is that we have every other department trying to hold the line on salaries and expenses. That is not the case in this department. It is not the case at all. And so when we look at, I go look at our statutory requirement as an incorporated city, we are required to provide police, fire, and roads. And along with that, we're also required to have certain code enforcement, which means we have to have a planning and zoning department to enforce city codes. Okay? What we are not required by statutory as an incorporated city is to have any sort of animal shelter or animal control. I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying where are our priorities? I'll yield to my council members. If you want to sit here and you want to take a budget that in its totality, when Councilman Les Covington was here, he raised the caution flag when we went above 80,000. And then we sat here and supposedly the job was done when salaries were in the mid-40s. Now they went to 60, and actual reality is they're actually pushing 66 with overtime. And now we're told we're going to go with more than a 20% increase for the 2026 budget. Now again, there's 7 other councilmen here, but we have a responsibility to the citizens in this community to hold the line. And we have every other department holding the line, with this exception. And we have an animal control full-time person leading this, that this new compensation level meets or exceeds 5 of our firemen.
Yes, please.
Overtime, I believe we could get a lot less if we had a part-time person. I just want to throw that out there.
It's 6 half dozen the other. We either pay a part-time person or we pay you and Brandon overtime. But you have that part-time person, and you've had that part-time person this year, and you still have logged in overtime. And I've never seen you come before council and ask, either in writing or formally stand before council and say, I'm going to break my budget.
I did not know I was supposed to do that.
Well, can I also, I'd love, like, Chief Monty, like, at the end of the day, you're even Megan's boss. And I feel like maybe needs to be some knowledge on, even from your perspective, because you're out there, you see what they're doing and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it hones in, what's the job and what does it take to cover that job? And so, at the end of the day, even if it's just Megan and Brendan full-time, we need a minimum of 66,000 to cover a 7-day a week. It's not a 5-day-a-week department. So, I'd love for you to just say your feelings on, because this is just the proposed situation. So what it's proposed is Megan full-time, Brendan full-time, and Morgan 20 hours a week. That's what the budget is proposed.
But again, in 23 and 24, the job was done.
But I'm just saying.
With a salary budget of 45,000.
And I get what you're saying. So the end of the day is, can animal control work 7 days a week with one full-time person and a 20-hour-a-week part-time? Because that's the only way you're going to get it back down to 45,000. So that's the question, is can the job be done in 7 days?
It was done before. And when I go to our fire chief and I look at him and he's operating and he's down, he took down 1 of 4 fire stations, but he still does the job. He does it with less full-time firemen than before the lawsuit.
Well, it's not my question to answer. I'd love to hear from you, Chief Monty.
Same.
The job's evolved though. When I was in control of it, I don't think we had the population that we have out there now. I think that's a big part of it. That's the only reason that the job's evolved to the point that it is. And that was the whole purpose of my discussion with the mayor. Yes, I am her supervisor in regards to if we need her to handle police issues, but I don't know as far as what's going on out there right now. Other than that part of it, Megan does her own scheduling, her own hiring. I help her when she interviews people because she asked me to help set in on that. And I've tried to advise her, give her the best advice I can, and she's doing well with it. But as far as knowing everything that's going on out there, really the only part that I'm supervisory over to do with Megan is when we need animal control for police issues. And I try not to call her out. I myself try to help with that overtime issue. But I have people all the time that want us to come pick a dog up after hours. And unless it's an extreme emergency, I tell the guys, do not call animal control out. Unless it's a vicious animal or if it's something that can wait till tomorrow or wait till weekdays and not on the weekends, then I try not to add to her overtime.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry. What I want to say about animal control is this. I feel like council, mayor, do we still have an animal control committee? They were working on the ordinances. What happened to the ordinances?
It is still there and it's being done, but it's
So they've disbanded.
We do still have an animal control committee.
Yeah.
They were working on the ordinance. We were supposed to have a meeting 2 weeks ago, if I remember right. And it got postponed because some of the paperwork was misplaced. So
Okay.
my understanding, we do still have a committee, but we've not had a meeting in a little while.
I feel like animal control needs to be rehauled from top down. And I'm not talking about like you guys. I'm talking about if council as a whole feels like that there need to be changes out there, we need to work with Megan to sit down and discuss what those changes need to be. If there need to be different protocols, then we need to sit down with Megan and we need to come up with those protocols because this has been going on forever. And during all of this, our stray population has exploded. Okay, exploded. Every week, I can guarantee you, I get at least 3 phone calls of people absolutely tired and irate. I've got the problem out there where I'm at. It is insane, the amount of animals daily.
And As the
And-
economy gets worse, people quit taking care of.
And I get that, and that's something we're gonna have to face. But like, we can't look at citizens and go, well, people don't give a crap about themselves anymore, and they don't care about their pets, and they're just gonna throw them on the street. What do you want us to do? So what I'm saying is, this is a problem that's been boiling for a long time. We're gonna have to get control of it. So, because that's part of what we're here to do. So whether we need to, if you want 2 buildings shut down out there and we don't take any, that many animals anymore, then we're gonna have to have a very real discussion about putting animals down. And going back to the old ordinance.
I'm not
of-
saying how you're going to administer it or not. What I'm saying is,
No.
hold on, because I hear what you're saying about animals and everything, but we can sit here and go over with the chief and talk with him about crime in general in the city. There's far more today. We have a drug problem in this city that nobody can deny.
True.
And yet
his
his
budget-
budget, his salary is not going up the percentage of animal control. I'm asking you as a city council person, we have a limited amount of tax dollars.
Yes. If you'd let
Do
me
you,
get to
do you
that
wanna?
spot, I'll tell
We are
you.
understaffed in the road department.
Yes.
We are understaffed in the fire
Yes.
department, and yet we have voted, I'm not getting personal, we are considering a budget that went up, salary-wise, went up 35% this year.
Yes.
And proposed now to go up another 20%.
Yes, I'm
And
not,
somewhere along the line, we have to, as a council, have to say no.
and what I'm saying is, I agree that we cannot continue to just raise the ceiling on salaries and people. But on the back end of that, we need to work with them on how to not keep the pot boiling over on
Yes.
the other end. You can't just look at them and say,
No.
we're not gonna give you the money, now go out there and figure it out. That's what I'm saying.
But that's what we tell our police chief.
But
You control the amount of animals, you can't control the amount of people. That's all I need to know. Y'all want me to purge the animals, because that's what it comes down to.
Well, in my opinion, I get
I don't
the
know how
money.
you administer it, and I'm not telling you whether you should put down animals or not, whether or not. I'm saying, we're sitting here tonight looking at budgets, and we have to decide for the taxpayers, are we gonna provide adequate fire, police, and roads? Or are we gonna sit here and add exponentially to animal control? Your choice. You can vote.
Monty, aren't we upping the salaries of your guys? That's what I thought.
10.6%.
So, huh?
10.6%.
Yes.
Not-
And
not
again-
20%.
Again, like I just said, could not agree more. I could not
agree.
agree more. But we are always hanging off the back end of these problems.
yes.
That's where, and if you'll go back, last year around this time, I made a statement that I would have liked to have seen council come in on the following year of 2025 and come to the table with ideas on how we can start combating some of these problems, and said where we were gonna be sitting come the end of 2025, and yet here we are. And everybody looked at me like I had 3 heads, just stared a hole through me.
An exception, if you will, please.
Go ahead.
I sat on animal control, I chaired it for a year. We provided all kinds of guidelines. We spent donated dollars pushing $250,000 on that facility. 2 new buildings, heated and cooled, and a whole site generator, not taking taxpayer donations. And yet, the labor went up. If you add the two, if you look at the increase over a 2-year budget, it's 64%. There's not a department head sitting there, fire, police, or road, that their budget from 2023 until 2026 budget went up 64%.
Let me ask you a quick question. Do you think I'm sitting here defending that increase? Is that what you think I'm doing?
No, we're here tonight to determine whether or not the individual department budgets are something that we can carry to council on Thursday, and I'm seeing the same number that I saw at our last council meeting that I objected to.
Right.
And we had emails go back and forth, and I said at the bottom of my email, take salary back to $53,000 for animal control. That gives everybody the increase. And that obviously has been ignored between those emails and tonight.
I can't account for that because that would be budget and Misty and.
No, ma'am,
But,
this went out to all council members.
I know, you're
Misty's-
saying though, in the final budget, it was ignored. That's what you just
Yeah,
said.
and that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
What I'm trying to say is, what I would like to see this council do is, no, do I agree with that increase? No. I just sat there and said, I don't feel like elected officials need to have an increase right now. So no, I don't agree with that. But what I am saying is, if we're gonna cut it back to where it should be, then we need to work with them to do the other part of it. We're either gonna have to shut 2 buildings down out there, or we're gonna have to instruct Megan on getting rid of animals, putting animals down. You start doing that, you might lose some of your volunteers. I understand that you worked with the committee and you had protocols. What I'm saying is, we need to work with Megan, we need to get some legislation down in some ordinances and get it under control once and for all. And then, we don't have to fight over that anymore. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't agree with the increase, I don't. But I also know how they drown out there. Now, if they need better guidance, and we want to lay down some protocols and all that, I'm saying this council needs to work with her and get it done. So that's how I feel about it, and I feel very strongly about it, because how long has this been going on?
Now, since the 2025 budget was put in place, and now the proposed 26.
I mean,
So
we've
as
had
far as
animal
I'm
control
concerned,
issues
the issue
since I could go
in
back and
terms of
remember.
salary increases is where we lost control of this at the end of 2024, when we approved a 35% increase in salary.
Sitting back and watching and listening, and I listen a lot in my office and back. You've taken this animal control, and you bought more property, you build more buildings, which, whether you're planning to or not, brought more animals. So now you're bringing more animals that you need to take care of daily, take care of weekends that you're having, whatever you call them, adoptions and everything else. Oh, but by the way, you guys can't work anymore. So the city has increased this animal control property, and it's got bigger, so now more people bring their animals here, whether we want them or not. But then you're telling we don't have money to staff it, so do away with it. You've got 2 choices. You either staff it so that they can take care of them, give them the guidelines that they're looking for, or shut the place down. Because you're fighting back and forth over something that is a no-win situation. You can't build a big property
Yep.
and say, we have to have more volunteers. We don't need any help here. And oh, the way, you need to get rid of your animals, but you can't do it on weekends because you can only work 40 hours. She's caught in a catch-22.
Yep, very much.
And what's unfortunate for the road department and the police department and the fire department is that because if you were to get on the social media and look at the pulse of the city, animal control, the roads, these are things that people are very upset about and are very passionate about, not just like ho-hum, kind of like dipping their toe in the water of how they feel. No, they're very passionate about it. And my thing is very similar, piggybacking off what Penny said. If you build it, they will come. Field of Dreams, that's kind of what's happened. And my issue, and I've said this several other times, another issue that we have is that people know what a great facility Cherokee Village has if you're in Hardy and if you're in Highland or you're in Ash Flat. So unfortunately, that's the problem. I mean, I'm going to ask a question and it may be dumb. Can we not get an attorney's opinion on what we can do as the other cities know that they're part of the problem. They're sitting back there popping popcorn, watching us fight about this, when at the end of the day, this is not just our problem. We have been dumped with this problem, and there has to be some type of legal recourse that we have with the other townships to pitch in and help.
And to a certain extent, the police chief, to their credit, when they get called by another community, and they have an animal control issue, and they need them to step in, he charges them.
If it's enough, I try to turn them away. if
Of course.
we can. But if it's an extreme emergency, then we charge them just like we do anybody else that brings an animal and drops off. For the,
But you also have a situation when those monies were donated, they were for replacement buildings, not additional buildings. They were for replacement buildings. I remember the conversation that I had with Misty, I believe January of last year. Or it may have been January 24. I'd have to go back and take a look at it. But we had a $700 electric bill for animal control because Macon was forced to use space heaters to heat the old buildings, the white building, the red building. And we had a $700 electric bill. The buildings that we built have split units in both the cat building and the new dog kennel. And so they're designed to heat and cool very efficiently, and both of them are well insulated. So those were replacement. They weren't supposed to be treated as additional buildings because at the time when Monty took on evaluating the buildings out there, and then I was asked by the trustees to step in and direct the dog building after the cat building was built and the whole site generator was installed. And we looked at whether or not the existing white building could be renovated and whether it was worth spending a single dollar for that building. And the response by the contractors was no. You've got a building that's over 50, possibly over 60 years old that started out as a horse stable. It's not. It's been adapted for a dog building.
So the thought process is just to let it sit there and just rot to pieces and
No,
never be used for anything?
it was supposed to handle any overage.
Well,
of
but
the
hold
20
on, that
of the
apparently
22 kettles.
that's the word that's being very relative, and some people have a definition of what overage is, and others have another opinion. And that's what she's trying to say, is that we need to stop with all this. This is my opinion, this is this. We need someone to come in, evaluate animal control, determine what we are doing, what we need to be doing, and assign a cost to that. And in order to do that, we may have to spend some money, but this is the dumbest conversation to have every single year. And this is just my first one. I just know about it from watching videos and getting on Facebook and the social media, and the perception is that we have this amazing facility. And do you honestly think Hardy is waiting to call him and ask permission to bring a dog? No, they're waiting on the weekend, which, oh, by the way, now we're not going to have staffing, and they're going to toss that dog over the fence and keep driving. That is what's happening.
They don't even wait for the weekends because we get the calls during the day.
And look at these numbers.
I want to surrender and
Okay.
we say we can't.
Look at these
And
numbers.
next thing we know, we get a call
So
that's
fund it.
over.
I know, but at the same point, what we're asking someone to do for $13.39 an hour, you could go to Carol's and be the hostess for 14. Spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you.
Spoiler alert, we have 5 of his firemen over there that are getting paid that or less to go into a burning building.
Well, I mean, then
So
let's
set your
talk about
priorities.
it all. Like, we are burning our people up. We are burning them out. We're burning them up. And I get it. This is frustrating. I'm frustrated. I'm sick of, you know what, now that I have the floor, I'm sick of spending money, cash, $50,000 on trucks and all this other stuff when there are other options to keep our cash available to circumvent issues like this. But no one wants to talk about that. Everyone has their opinion about how every dollar should be spent without thinking about the greater good, and that is the people that are keeping all this going, not a truck. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gotten that passionate, but I'm sorry. It's just stupid.
And as long as,
I don't want to talk about it either, I didn't want to talk about it.
So-
I don't want to be the bad guy here, but there is a solution.
Okay.
We're going to have to start putting animals down.
Yeah.
I want to say this just to put my opinion in for the budget for animal control. And my opinion as a Councilman, is I feel like, as of right now, with the work that is out there, the 50 things, the 50 duties that are on this list that they have to do every day or whatever, at a minimum, I feel like they need to have 2 full-time people out there. And just their salaries with what, not 1 day of overtime and running a 7-day a work week shift would be the $53,200 and almost $50. Well, you know good and well they're gonna work more than just 40 hours a week. So I feel like at a minimum, we need to match the budget we did for 2025. They've already even gone over that for this year. I think 2025 is gonna probably land somewhere between 62 and 63,000. So for the time being, this is just only my thought, is we at least have to budget for 2 full-time for animal control, which to me is a minimum of 60,000, because you know good and well with the Saturday and Sunday work, there's gonna be overtime. So that's a minimum. I mean, that's even way minimum, more minimum than I would wanna do. But it's everyone's opinion, everyone can vote, but that's just my opinion, because as of right now, the work that needs to be done, I don't think it's safe to only have 1 full-time person, because it's a 7-day-a-week job, and safety and the 50 things that need to be done. So that's just my opinion. I don't like the increased spending and the percentages either, but until we reduce the duties out at animal control, I feel like we at least need 2 full-time people out there. So that's just my opinion.
I expressed in the email the 53,000, which gives 2 people, you know, the increase that was requested. And if the job was done in 2024 for less than 45,000, 53,000 is an $8,000 increase over what it was in 2024 budget. And again, at the end of the day, everybody expresses their opinion, and I get it. And we haven't gotten to the police department budget, but as it pertains to vehicles, our police officers, our firemen are in vehicles 24/7, especially the PD. And we're rotating out vehicles that put officers at risk on the road. And so that's why we endeavored, even though trying to keep a very tight budget, and fortunately we had some ARPA funds, we had some supplemental funding from both the state and the feds, and that's why we very carefully and diligently debated over the fact of upgrading vehicles that had 100, 150, or 1,000 more miles, because every day one of those officers gets in one of those vehicles, that's a liability if we knowingly put them in vehicles that put them at risk. And that's why we upgraded the vehicles, and we used a lot of federal and state dollars that were supplemental to the tax dollars we were collecting. And if that's a wrong priority,
Not at all, but there are other
vote for it.
ways, there are more creative ways to pay for that instead of literally writing a check out of the reserve fund. And I'm wanting to talk about those. I'm wanting to talk about creative financing so that we can hold on to cash, because the savings that Mayor Rose spoke about in the last meeting, that was through the due diligence of the department head, saving budget allocated funds. It isn't a surplus. We do not have a surplus of funds, folks. That money that was saved was money that was not spent. So that reserve fund is only going to grow when we don't spend budgeted items.
So your problem wasn't what they bought, it was how it was bought?
It was how it was bought. It was how it was, and because at the end of the day, with no prepayment penalties, we can pay it off, we can buy ourselves some time. And meanwhile, we can show our people, all the people, the police department, the fire department, animal control, any person that does a job for the city, that we value them and that we want them compensated. City council doesn't even get a salary at all. And we're giving a raise to the mayor and to the clerk, and I'm okay with that, whatever. But all I'm saying is that the people are who we need to focus with our cash. And if we can come up with another way to pay for stuff, let's figure that out.
Mr. Paul's had his hand up first. Mr. Paul?
I just want to interject that you have to understand, the last two buildings that were put up, the city now has, came completely from donations. And if you don't look at the donations that are involved as far as keeping the animal shelter moving, these are people that are really dedicated to animals.
Extremely.
They love their animals, and you're really going to peel them off if you start taking things away. The other thing is, not only the buildings, but behind the scenes, how much is paid for as far as surgeries, the vet bills, all these other odds and ends, people who can't afford spay neuter, money is donated to have them covered so they can have an animal. There's no department that has as much money coming in from the outside and has as many volunteers as the animal shelter. And you've got to take that into consideration. That is really, it's a jewel that we don't, people are taking advantage of it, of course, but it really is something that people will donate to because it's a cause they love. And it's, somehow you have to balance that. What do you have as far as administrative? Because that's what you really have. There's a couple of vet bills and whatnot that come along, but it's mostly administrative. It's people, it's employees that you have to control as far as the departments are concerned. So you got vehicles that are sitting there, but those aren't, you don't get new vehicles there either. Those are mostly ones that are pretty injured. All I want to interject.
No, thank you, and that was a very, very nice polished way to say.
I wanted to think, there is a fund that has started to remodel one of the older buildings, one of the old dog buildings as well. So, if people are putting money towards that, it's a slow process, but they're going to get the money and they're going to help bring that building back up to the, I don't know which one it is, but bring it back up to maybe the 20th century.
My
Mr.
biggest
Allen?
thing, oh, I'm sorry, go
I got
ahead.
one thing I gotta say. I've kept charts and graphs and stuff from 2019. In respect to Mr. Thompson, 2019, $19,000 was what paid animal control salaries. It's up to almost $60,000 now. He's right in that respect. That animal control, if you look at proceeds, return on investment, you look at they don't generate any income. Only income they generate is from donations. And their donations have been going down. So, and their salaries are going up. But in retrospect, according to what he's saying about the fire department, you go back in 2023, the fire department's budget was $320,000 in salaries. 2024 jumped up to $400,000. 2025 jumped up to $490,000. So the salaries are going up. And already we spent $500,000, we still got a month to go. So my contention is right now, in administration costs, you're going to have to up the fire department up to around $817,000, which is going to drive your administration expenditures up more than it was in 2025. But you're going to need to do that to pay for the fire department. The fire department, believe it or not, in 2022, their salaries were at $538,000. What happened between 2022 and 2023? 538 down to 320. Then back up to 400 and 460 and 490, and now we're back up to 520, where we should be. We should be there. We shouldn't have been going all the way down.
And I understand, sir, but you have to understand the 2022 budget was where we had to cut back as a result of the settlement in 2021, and one of those individuals is in this room this evening that was involved in that. But as a result of that lawsuit and that settlement, the city lost $850,000 annually in shared revenue from SID. And we had to cut back on the fire department. We cut the fire department dramatically because the settlement occurred in August of 21 and we didn't have any time to react. And we've had study after study after study, and we've kicked the can down the road as a community, not pointing any fingers, but as a community, we kicked the can down the road now for all these years. I've been calling for an increase in sales tax for this community to be equal to Mountain Home and Horseshoe Bend for the 11 years I've sat on council. The hard part is trying to get any kind of tax increase from anybody, whether it's for schools, whether it's for roads. You know, every single person that owns a home in this community has seen their costs increase over time. And they understand that in their own budget, but they don't understand it in city administration or state administration, that those vehicles, whether they're in animal control or whether they're in the fire department or in the police department, those vehicles, the employees, their salaries, their benefits, they all go up. Our groceries have all gone up. Our homeowners insurance have all gone up. And no one wants to step up because, you know, there's people here that were part of trying to get it under the previous administration. We took it to the voters. We had a lot of discussion about how we needed to raise revenues in this city. And the comment that comes back most frequently is, well, you need to get more stores and brick and mortar. And the reality of it is that Amazon and Walmart.com put packages on people's doorsteps every day, far more than any brick and mortar could in this community. And those sales taxes are reported and paid for this community. But at 1%, that's about $400,000 a year. Correct me, Mr. Hinch, if I'm wrong. I'm in the ballpark there. Mr. Hinch has been involved in a lot of budget, you know, construction and everything. But in the 11 years that I've sat back here and been part of that discussion of trying to get an increased sales tax in this community, which would be a progressive tax. If you have low income and you don't have a lot of consumption, you're not going to pay, you know, a huge amount of sales tax increase. If you're buying your groceries at Walmart or Harps or Bill's Cash Saver, you're not paying taxes into the city anyway. So your tax, you know, you already pay 1.5 to Highland, or you pay whatever, you know, Ash Flat. But nobody's willing to sit down here as a group, as a community, and say, we need to have more tax revenue in this city. And so here we sit here trying to argue over nickels and dimes because they all add cumulatively together, while the cost of operating this community continues to increase. Whether you're talking lakes or golf courses or, and the amenities, or whether you're talking basic services of an incorporated city. And so your unpaid city councilman, unpaid for the last 11 years because the previous mayor...
Longer than that, I've been here on the 16th.
Yeah,
and
we
I've never-
eliminated council as a leadership example to our department heads. And they cut it back to the bones. And so part of the problem is we have people that don't want to get together and have a reasonable discussion about practical solutions. We have people that want to sit here and throw attorneys at one another and cost the taxpayers of this community in legal fees and settlements and everything else.
Times two.
And so here we are yet again, and we have litigation because people can't get in a room and have a reasonable conversation. It doesn't mean we all have to agree. But if I have a disagreement with my neighbor, I don't go hire a lawyer to go beat up on my neighbor. Sorry, Mr. Gruger, but that's my position, and I'm going to hold that position. So,
Sales taxes, you guys will budget the sales taxes, but then the revenue comes in and you're $40,000 more than what you budgeted. Every single year, you under budget sales taxes.
we have to, if we're going to be, okay, if we're going to be prudent administrators of taxpayer money, we have to be conservative on our expected revenues, and we have to hold the line on our expected fixed costs, which are salaries and benefits and insurance and all those operating and all those utilities. So we have to be purposely conservative when we estimate revenues. And we've been fortunate that we've had an economy, local economy, where people were consuming at a level that created more sales tax than what we anticipated.
Okay, then if you're talking salaries with the street department, you estimate $200,000 in salaries. You only spend $130,000.
Because this gentleman over, because this gentleman,
$251,000 in 2009.
whoa, 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 slow down. But but before, you have to ask what's behind the numbers. He's understaffed.
Yes.
I don't know how roads are gonna get plowed efficiently this winter. He is sorely understaffed. And part of that is because we can't offer as competitive salaries as our neighbor in Ash Flat. Because we don't have the kind of revenue, because we don't have Walmart sitting in within our city limits.
But what I'm saying is, why don't you budget for what the actuals are? If you know he's understaffed, why do you budget twice as much money for it and then take money away from somebody else that probably needs it, like maybe the fire department?
Because he's trying to hire to replace critical members of his department.
In 6 years, he hasn't hired anybody?
He keeps having turnover because we keep training people that get hired by neighboring communities. And so when they're gone, their money, their salary isn't being spent, and we're spending time trying to replace those individuals.
I understand that, and it's the same thing with the police department. They don't spend up to their salaries
How many,
because he's short on people.
take a pause for a moment. Chief, how many officers have you lost in the last 5 years?
17 officers in the last 5 years.
17 officers that we paid for police academy, uniforms. We sit back there and we equip these officers, we train them, they get some experience, and guess what? They go to another city that can afford a higher salary.
I understand that, but the thing is, what I'm saying is, schedule, if you're gonna do a budget, budget for what you know you're going to budget to. I mean, like animal control, okay, fine, they're gonna spend the money, whether you budget it or not, they're gonna spend the money to keep their department flowing and growing. For the police department, for instance, you're gonna budget all kinds of money, they can't spend it enough. They can't spend it fast enough. They try, but they can't spend it fast enough. Same thing with the street department. So the budget is just a guideline, is all it is. It's a guideline. What you do is you use the budget in past. Go back to your past figures and stuff, like you were generating. You were going back in the past on animal control. That's fine. You go back on the past. Animal control, you're right. It's continuously going downhill. They're spending more than what they're generating because they can't get rid of the animals. They can't sell them. They're generating more. The same thing. Everything, planning and zoning is going down. They're not generating, they're not getting the revenue to offset their expenditures. Budget to what you know you can budget to. Let's get realistic with the budget.
We do that every year, sir, with all due respect.
You try to. You look at the budget and you look at the actuals. It should be close, like this. It should be close like this, but if you look year to year, it's this way. It's this way. You're making more than what you budgeted. 2025, you budgeted $155,000 in losses. You're already $80,000 plus.
And part of
That's
that,
$235,000 miss.
okay, take a breath for a moment. With all due respect, we are still trying to build reserves because I have a fire department over here that needs 3 new fire trucks at a minimum of $700,000 apiece. $2.1 million for one department. I have police department that has continued need. I have a road department that needs at least 1 dump truck, a grader, a front end loader. I could go down a list of equipment, okay? All of the city's rolling stock ages and has to be replaced over time. We are beyond. And so we try to build, bear with me a second, let me finish, okay? When Ray Maynard was mayor, he left over $1 million in reserves. In 8 years that Lloyd Heffley was mayor, he went through the entire reserve. So when Russ Stokes started in his first month, we got together, Les Covington, myself, Russ Stokes, and we went over the budget, and we determined that we were dangerously close to not even meeting payroll because the reserves were gone. You don't operate your household like that, neither do I. You have some sort of savings. In a city, that's called reserves. And so Mayor Stokes sat there diligently working through 8 years and built reserves back up. And this mayor has continued to build reserves. And so the only way that you can do that is you've got to sit there and live within your means. You've got to underspend your budget as best you can. Otherwise, you don't build reserves. And otherwise, you're ill-equipped to replace critical equipment that is necessary. We have, right now, we have about $2.5 million. I could go through that in a heartbeat. But that's not responsible because situations happen. I could sit there and go down to the local banks and I could finance all the equipment. And then I'd build up, a debt to where that we'd be talking part of the budget would be interest on the debt. But we've tried diligently for the 11 years that I've been up here, and I've sat on committees with Mr. Hinch. I've watched the diligent efforts of Heather Harrison, who's taken this over, and we try to sit there and build together a reasonable budget. Are we going to be spot on 100%? No, we're not. We are going to underestimate our revenues, and we are going to be realistic about if we're fully staffed and we can hire all the people that we want to hire back to be fully staffed, we're going to sit there and meet those expenses, and we're going to come pretty close. But I watched Mayor Stokes be diligent with taxpayer money, and I watched this mayor be diligent with taxpayer money. And we've been very careful. And where we have an obligation to put equipment that can be safely operated, we got the road department that has a skid steer that is enclosed to protect the operator. Because when you put a broom on the front of that, you don't want to be close to that piece of equipment. So we try to sit there and be responsible to our employees. And the hard part is trying to sit there and put up a competitive wage. And we've made some progress over time. But we continue to lose employees, trained employees, not to Little Rock, not to Jonesboro, but to Ashflat and Hardy and Highland, all of which have higher sales taxes than what we do. Because our citizens want something for nothing. Not as a whole, but generally speaking, if you just look at tax proposals that we've taken to the citizens of this community, they get turned down in spades. And eventually, we won't be able to sit there and provide basic services. So yes, we go through a very spirited debate as to how to spend those dollars and how to allocate those dollars. That's the process.
I understand the process, but how did you build those benefits up? How did you build those funds up in the past few years without the American Rescue Plan Association, or without the CARES Act funds, or without the D4, Balfour funds? That's what drove your funds up, correct?
In part.
And intact.
In part.
You went out and bought a fire truck, and you were able to buy a couple police trucks to pay for that. Now you're right back where you started from. Now you gotta live within your means. You don't have those funds anymore coming in. But yet you still gotta buy more police trucks, you still gotta buy more fire trucks, you gotta buy dump trucks. Where are you gonna get that money from? You can't take it from your funds now because you'll be gone. You'll be done. Like you said, you'll go for $2.5 million like that. You're absolutely correct. But the thing is you gotta stay with your budget. You gotta fine tune it as best as you possibly can.
That's what we're here trying to do.
That's what you're talking about. And like I said, the fire department, like I said, you gotta look at last year's, what you're spending and everything. Fine, you're right. You don't wanna pay any more money to animal control for salaries and everything. Guess what? They're using it. They're gonna continue to use it to keep the animals alive and everything they possibly can. So they're over budget. The same thing with the fire department. They're over budget. What are you gonna do? Go cut the fire department back down again? I mean, you can't. You can't do that. You gotta be realistic. I mean, if they're gonna use it, put it in the budget. Put it in the budget if they're gonna use it. If they're not gonna use it, take it out of the budget. Street department, $200,000 in salaries. They're only gonna use $150,000. Even if they hire more people, okay, fine, then you go over budget. You go over budget, but you gotta look realistically.
Mr. Brent?
I can appreciate where you're coming from on this, but prudent budget planning, I'm kind of going to side with Steve and the council here on this. I've worked with many budgets in the past where you want to have a strong reserve budget for unknown expenditures, downturns in the economy, some catastrophic emergency. And I know I've worked with Joey, I've talked with him a lot over the past few months. I know that he's struggling to get people in, and that his budget would be closer to being met if he had his salaries. If he was fully staffed, we'd be there. But so we have a little excess in the budget because he's not fully staffed. We're kind of blessed there because we can roll that into our reserve fund, hopefully, and have that for the future. And if we go by year by year by year, and our reserve fund continues to grow, then we can start saying it's time to give our road staff a pay increase, so we're not training Hardy and Ash Flats and everybody else's future employees by being able to retain the people we've got. That's a prudent business decision. And having a safety and emergency fund and a reserve fund is of critical importance to our budget, and I'm a strong believer in making sure we've got one for just those emergencies.
Miss Heather, we've chased this dog around the courtroom for quite a while.
Yeah.
We got 11 departments, and we only went through 2 of them, so that only took 2 hours, an hour and 35 minutes, so let's go through the rest of it.
Okay. All right, next is building and grounds. Is that in y'all's order? Is that the right order?
Yes, ma'am.
Just to compare, this is just Cliff Notes here. We are, in building and grounds, we are $8,850 less than 2025's budget. I want to be crystal clear that in buildings and grounds, we have not budgeted for any major HVAC situations. And that's the biggest culprit for buildings and grounds would be, you know, an HVAC going out that we dealt with. I think, was that in 2024 or 2025? We had like 3 go out in the same year. Is that 24?
Yeah,
Yeah,
24.
I believe it's 24.
So just to be clear, we are decreased on the budget number for 2026, but we have not included, you know, major repair or new. The repair and maintenance for buildings is $15,000 for this year. So, any questions for building and grounds?
The only caution there is that it may be a situation, because of the poor circulation of the front offices, that we may need to look at having an HVAC, not a cleaning company, but an HVAC licensed contractor to come in, take a look at the
Insulation problems?
ductwork and see, you know, if we have a situation there where, because Penny, if I've heard you correctly, you know, there are times when the circulation seems fine, and there's other times when it doesn't. And I don't know the cause of that, because I'm not an HVAC contractor, but
And
perhaps.
the adjustments that are made is, I have one of those ever heaters. I'm not setting the goal and getting sick off that. But we have 5 electric heaters around these offices.
Right. So one of the things that, the other issue was, we raised the issue of taking those glass walls for the treasurer's office and clerk's office and doing something constructive with that, to do some type of insulation of those, because certainly the heat loss
The
in the
electricity,
wintertime
yeah.
is
After the
horrendous.
Well, I
first of
think-
the year, after the first of the year, I was gonna look at getting the contractor to come in and see what it costs and get some prices. And
Yeah,
bring
like
it
just
back
get
to council.
Charlie to
Yeah.
coordinate with some HVAC guy. I mean, I've got it on my notes of what, because you mentioned it last month, so I had written it down. But I think that doesn't need to be on my list. It needs to be carried on to Charlie or
It'll
whoever.
be something we have to come back and.
Okay, community service, is just, you know, y'all got all these pieces of paper in front of y'all, right? Okay. So, community service, the only The only thing that I've noticed recently, just because I try to keep up with the previous years, getting, I kind of look at the number all year long. I've seen November numbers, but then Misty can pull up like half of December, so I can see what's getting spent. And the only thing that I've seen just here recently of community service is really nothing got spent up until this past month, and some money got spent. So I don't know exactly. I mean, if anything could change on community service, if we wanted to decrease the small tools and equipment. But I just became aware of that, just recently when, the expenditure changed, but.
What he usually does with that is towards the end of the year, that's when he'll go buy mops and vacuums, and he does it kind of like Kay does. She'll get a total at the end of the year for her riz for printers and stuff like that.
Right.
And kind of make one big purchase, and that's what he's been doing with that also. Buying the tools and stuff for the community, so it could be.
Okay. Next next in y'all's line is court auto or not?
Yep.
Okay, so you can just, and mainly the reason there's no expenses in that is because all the expenses, I think, went over to district court. So basically, that's just a $2,000 in revenue. And then district court, when you revenue minus expenditures, I think we're ahead of the game on that department. Next in line, do y'all have fire?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. No one said?
I do have one question for our fire chief. Some years ago, this would go back to when Chief Pendarvis was in your position, and we replaced breathing apparatus. I think one number that comes to mind was about 160,000 or more. I think that was kind of the first round, and then there was an additional requirement of about 40 or 50,000. I think we ended up. Okay, so in terms of the viability of that breathing apparatus for your personnel, are you feel that that's adequate and you're in good standing with that equipment?
We could stand to have some more at this point, but we're making new. It's not, it would benefit us as far as our ISO goes, equipment wise, more so than it would practically as far as how many of them we use. I do get them, I implemented a program where we get them serviced professionally every year. So we have less issues, and they're going to last us a lot better. Also, the brand that we changed brands when we purchased all that. Similar branded like all our neighboring agencies for interoperability as far as the cylinders and whatnot. So we've got less issues going forward with all that. Also, Heather, I was going to ask if you or Misty modified my original budgeted amount on the lot fee. What number do you have?
I've got, my number is 72.5. Let me make sure that's
Okay,
Misty's
we know
number.
for a fact there was a snafu with the credits on that, so that could easily drop. I know she said that it wasn't going to have to be paid in December because of the amount of credits. It's easily going to drop 10 to 15,000.
If we have a credit rolling in,
for
okay.
in the next year, so that's
Yeah,
going to be a savings there.
right. My number right now is 72.5.
Bless you.
And if y'all look at our current budget, you'll see we're way out of sorts on the lot fees as far as where we're at for 25, and that's because credits weren't being applied. But that money's not lost. It will roll over. We can obviously budget less
Yeah.
to make up the difference. Misty will be able to come up with the, I don't know if it's paid yet for December or not, I don't know when that comes to, but anyway, we were discussing that the other day for an hour, so.
Maybe if she finds out something before Thursday, we can change it.
And have you set aside equipment for
Why is
the
the
re-
special
the
event
replacement or
pay
the additional
going
truck
up?
that you're picking up?
For,
Do what?
Have you set aside for equipment for the additional
Fire
truck that
department
you're gonna be
special
picking
event
up
pay.
in
It was
26?
1,500, then 1,800, and 2,100.
is,
Okay.
Actually, some of the equipment on that will come out of like Act 33.
8-hour shift
Act 33
for
revenue
6
is
people
actually
is
up
$350 a
substantially,
day.
which that's based on homeowner policies, as everybody knows.
And that's how many
Policies have gone up
I think so.
substantially. So it's 1% is where Act 33 is.
And
for
Cal
right.
doesn't pay himself that day.
I think this year
Six
we've collected
people for
an additional-
$350 a day.
Cherokee Village alone collected an additional 27,000 from homeowner policies.
This is all overtime and holiday.
Okay.
You can ask him.
Also, that's where I repair all the fire apparatus and get
That's where 2,100 comes from. It's 6 times 350.
the apparatus themselves. That cost has gone up considerable over the last 3 years.
Never seen
Right.
6 sitting down
So
there.
pretty much an offset then? For the most part, pretty much an offset between the two?
Probably.
Okay.
So really, as far as fire department, it's pretty self-explanatory. He's going into 2026 with 10 employees. He's anticipating 3 going to the academy, which is an expense in itself. And then the only thing we are unaware of that probably, since we're so late in December, will not fall in 2025, but will in 2026, is the tornado siren situation. And that's just gonna be a flat-out expense.
I'm in the middle of that right now. Actually, the company has come and removed that Thunderbird siren. It was inoperable, or I should say partially inoperable. So he was in the area, it was gonna save us a bunch of money for him to already be in the area and come take it down instead of making a special trip. So I talked to the mayor, and we're like, yeah, go ahead and do that. I actually made a phone call today, I haven't even told the mayor this. Those sirens are rotators. They make sirens that are just a fixed horn. I told them to work me up a price because it was like an $8,000 estimate on repairing it. I asked them to work me up a price of maybe replacing with either new or used a fixed siren head instead of a rotating, less moving parts, less potential problems going forward. She said she'd contact me back with some information on that to see how that balances out versus repairing what we got.
And as far as total numbers at the very end of expenses, we're coming in at $32,347 less than 2025's budget for fire department. 32,347 less. What's next? Planning and zoning? I mean, any questions, y'all just pop, I'm just gonna keep rolling.
I heard the police chief said something about an increase for the police department. Was there a budget increase for the fire department? I didn't hear anything, so I'm
Reduction,
not aware of it.
reduction.
Yeah, that,
Well, it looks like a reduction. 2025, I had asked council for an extra spot because I had issues with keeping staffing. I had a man in the hospital at the time, and another one out due to a tragedy in his family for an extended period of time. So I asked for another spot. We budgeted for an extra spot of what we normally have. So it looks like we've gone down quite a bit. We eliminated that spot going into next year.
And I know you've lost.
But as far as salary increases, we have, I forget what the percent was, it's pretty low, but we've got a little bit of a salary increase built in. But my overall salary line item budget's actually going down.
Right, and you also last year, wasn't it last year or this 2025, or that you paid out for a retired guy, which was a little bit of an increase as
Do
well.
what now?
What in 2025, you paid out for a retired guy, which was an increase?
I actually had two retired
Caused an
last
increase?
year. Two resigned. Just had a hiring deal here a month ago. Hired two, one of them has never come to work and isn't going to, mostly because he can't afford to come to work for it. So, and it is, but we're back on the bill. I'm vacant one spot right now, so.
Planning and zoning. We've removed the 25,000 for contract services. Salaries are just 3% increase. We went up just slightly, only up by $1,000 to a $15,000 raise and removal. Everything else is pretty much the same, or we trim the fat just a little bit. But to keep in mind, just like administration, nothing is budgeted for one of their vehicles going out. They have two vehicles, and the second vehicle that Robert drives is the 2007 with 200,000 miles. They've put some work into it this year, water pump and something else, and Charlie's really hoping to get one more year out of that. But this budget does not reflect that truck dying. Police. I hope y'all still have all your colorful pieces of paper from last month. Do y'all have this kind of stuff that Chief Monty handed out last month? Do y'all have that?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring that one.
Okay, well, I'll hit the cliff notes of what his major increases are and why, and y'all can ask him any questions you want. But, huh? Yeah, you might want to, well, this is stapled if you want to, okay. All right, I'll try to go off my notes while he's got those. But, body dash cams is going up $980 because he's adding 2 more SIM cards for 2 camera systems. The next in line is labor expense. So you're going to see his increase on total labor expense, because not only is he increasing all his, there's 10 employees altogether in the police department. Everyone's getting a substantial raise to get them up to neighboring towns. Also included in that salary line item is his investigator position going to full-time. So that's what these 2026 proposed budget numbers reflect, is the increases he wants in all salaries of all his employees, and changing investigator to a full-time. If y'all want to ask him any questions about that, y'all can.
That same investigator we have now?
I hate it, John's retiring.
That's what I thought, okay, that's what I thought.
He is a diamond because, he's retired from 2 other places, he's very good. But, that's part of the reason I want to increase that to a full-time position, because finding another person that only wants to work part-time is at what he's making at my part-time salary with the skill set that he has is going to be impossible. He didn't want full-time when he came here. He then retired from 2 other places, like I said, so he was just looking for something part-time. He really enjoys it. Matter of fact, he's retired in August, but he's done told me that, it's gonna be hard for him to stay away.
Monty, I have a question on vehicle equipment expense.
I'm
Is,
sorry, on what?
on vehicle, equipment expense, is that for the new vehicle to get equipped?
Yes.
Okay, weren't we looking into a grant?
We were, that grant fell through. Nobody got that grant this year.
Okay. Well, that stinks. Because we've gotten that, what, the past 3 times we applied, right?
Yeah, we got it before, but this year, that grant, nobody got that grant.
Gotcha.
The copies that the mayor is doing right now so literally breaks down how we got all the salary numbers, how he came up with his event pay. So his event pay, which is, we're just putting everything together because it all comes out of salary. But event pay is $3,276, and on his piece of paper, it's going to break down what that pays for. And he's added several things to it, from New Year's, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Oktoberfest, Valentine's dance, Thanksgiving something.
Yes. Our events are increasing, the Oktoberfest, Valentine's Day dance. She's gonna do that every year. She actually got upset with me last year because I wasn't gonna make it, so she thought I wasn't gonna have any officers there. I had to reassure her I did have officers there, but she does that Valentine's dance to split it between the police and the fire department. So, I mean, that fundraiser is specifically for us, so. Like Oktoberfest, of course, we have a beer tea, and I have an extra officer on at that one. This year, we had somebody take one and try to sneak out through the post office, so we called them.
So you'll see on his projected salaries, I mean, he breaks it all down. It's just a matter of reading over it and seeing how he got his numbers. But we plugged in his numbers, and then it's up to council to decide yea or nay on it. But his request is reflected in the budget numbers in front of you. The only probably bigger uptick, he's wanting to add $3,300 to his computer software, and basically that adds a 4th Crime Star reporting system. So his budget last year was $5,600. That pays for 3, and he's wanting to add a 4th, which increases that $3,300 to $8,900. And there's a $400 yearly maintenance fee on that.
I think that would also, doesn't that also include the mobile in the vehicles?
Yes, it includes a desktop, and it also includes a laptop version that can be put on the car for the patrolman to use.
Nice.
So those are the biggest upticks for the police department as a whole. You know, regular increases on just inflation, but, so overall, as far as totals for expenditures for the police department, we're up $54,502 from last year's budget.
And also, I know it's not been included in the budget, I was going to include it in the budget, and in the last meeting we had, it was determined that big ticket items we were gonna wait on, but as you remember, we've been trying to get 2 trucks every year, and I'll sacrifice one of the trucks. If we have to, I'll sacrifice both the trucks. I would really like for my guys, they deserve it, they work hard, and I want that to be on.
Well, considering all of the additions for it just to be, you know, a $54,000 across the board increase, I mean, that definitely tracks with 2024 to 2025, so I think nicely done on
I
that.
think we're a little less than 4%.
Yeah.
I mean, if you actually average everything, it's,
So, and I already said something, I mean, just to be clear about this, I already spoke to Chief Monty. And yes, we've talked about his truck in budget meetings and this, that, and the other. And this past summer, we all made comments about how we kind of got hit out of nowhere with the June decision with little bit of knowledge. And so we all agreed that we're going to, if it's coming down the pike and you're asking, that we're going to have plenty of notice. And granted, going forward, if we don't have working meetings because people aren't showing up and we decide not to have them, somehow, some way, you're going to have to let council know. Because in my opinion, even though I'm a budget person and I know that's what you want, I don't want 30 seconds to decide that. So I've voiced that. I just want to say it out loud. And you said you'd help make sure we were ahead of the game. So.
Got a quick question. Got a question for Chief Lane. How many wells do our patrol trucks get on every year, on average?
Mine gets approximately 10 to 15. What we're trying to do with our program that we're trying to do is keep them below 50. What we want to do is start getting 2 trucks every year, but getting rid of 2 trucks with still low mileage on them so we get a substantial amount of trade in back on.
How many?
and they kind of answer Brent just a little bit, it varies between night shift and day shift. The night shift gets to do more, night shift does more patrol, because they're putting more miles on it. Day shift is normally just going from call to call, answering the calls, so day shift may not put, 20 to 25,000 miles a year, but the night shift may put 35 to 40, it varies between day shift and night shift.
When you get a new vehicle, Chief, how many years do you get out of it?
Well, I mean, we have been utilizing them until they were basically done. Yeah, we run them up here to the FFA auction, and we're lucky if they bring 3,000.
Okay.
So
So you drive the wheels off and move forward?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the SUVs that we traded out, they were 170 to 200,000 miles on them.
Okay, well, good news.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So is next in y'all's line Act 833 or street?
833.
Okay, so basically that's just a wash. Whatever he's pulling in, he's bringing out, and it's up to him how he spends his money. Next, I think, is street. And I've just, on street, I made one little, just little one-pager of just notes for y'all, just stuff that I had for me, in case y'all wanted them. In 2025, we budgeted for Joey to get that number 6 guy. That didn't happen. We're budgeting again, so in this proposed 2026 budget, it is for Joey to get another full-time employee. So right now, he's got 3 full-time and 2 part-time. In the budget is for him to get number 4 full-time, and I wanted to make a note that there is a great chance, and it could be a for sure thing, I don't know, Joey, but we might be losing a long-time part-timer who basically has the knowledge and does the work of a full-timer. So it's going to also be another blow to him, and imperative that he finds this new full-time guy. What else? As far as the way y'all see the line items, what we've decided to do is put all materials, and what I mean by that is going to be chip seal oil, rolled oil, rock blended, rock chips, concrete. Instead of them trying to to the dime, which goes into what category, we're just putting all materials together, make it a little bit easier on the treasurer, and inserting it into the line item. So if you see that, that's where we got that 145,000 is all materials. And he's been lower on fuel than what we expected, and we adjusted that, and we decreased his budget for fuel because of that.
Well, we had to lessen in 2025, the fuel prices eased up a little bit on us too, so.
So according to my little math that I do on my graph here, we are $47,250 less on the budget than 2025. And then I just put on here, because I know we've gone over it several times about his things that he might want to buy throughout the year, the dump trucks, the burner for the oil tank. I just put it on that one pager for y'all, snowplow, salt spreader, just for y'all to have that information.
Is there any progress on the snow plow and the salt spreader as we're heading into snow season?
Yeah, you got the new plow, you got the plow.
So you got the plow? What about the salt spreader? Good.
Any other questions for street?
And still, we don't have a guesstimate on the burner for the oil tank yet? Okay.
And the A&P is after street department, and basically, it's almost a wash. Their expenses are, maybe a couple of $100 less than their revenue, but basically, they're spending what they're bringing in, whether either in revenue or donations. So that's kind of a wash.
Going back to street real quick, I'm sorry,
Okay,
I
that's
didn't
okay.
speak up fast enough. Joey, with your budget for 2026, about how much paving do you see being done? Paving.
I'm hoping to do, there's going to be some roads I did up this year, and I've got two of my full-time guys, two full-time guys that get experience on machine. I mean, right now, I'm on how to dig and how to do this, and as soon as I get comfortable with machine, I'm going to start how to dig the road. And I'm going to cut them loose, and hopefully it'll pick up this year, or next year.
So, but you don't have like an estimate of like, we're planning on paving such and such, mileage, or you don't have anything like that?
I've got some roads wrote down, but other than doing it, it just depends on how they do it. I mean, if they can't get it done, then I'll have to jump in and do it. And of course, it's got to be me and another driver for a dump truck.
Do you know about how many roads you've got in mind to do this year?
About 7.
I'm sorry, Heather. Did you say 7? Okay, thank you.
So I think that's all the departments.
So we're going over the whole budget, what is the consensus of the council? About half of you is here tonight, but what is the consensus of the council of bringing it putting it on the new business list and discussing it for a vote Thursday?
I think if we go back to the adjustment that Heather spoke about, coming back to, I'm still on the same page as I was in the email. If we come back to 53 on the salaries for animal control, I'm fine.
My opinion is just that they're going to spend more than that. I mean, that's just with not 1 ounce of overtime or special, all the extra work in the 7 days a week. That's all I'm saying. I mean.
No, and I understand your point, but we set a budget this year of 60, and we overspent that as of last month by close to $6,000, so about 10%. So if we follow the same pattern this year, and we start out at 53, we're going to be close to 60, with overtime. And that gets back to Ms. Rowland's comments. There's got to be some processes detailed, outlined, and followed when it comes to that particular department. And,
And I just say sooner rather than later, so like if they're gonna have the same amount of work and it's taken $62,000 to do that work, then let's decrease that work so we can decrease that salary. You know, and we don't need it to elongate, so you know, at the end of the day, I think it's important to know going into January, you know, does Megan have her job? Does Brendan have his full-time job? And we say as a council that absolutely no part-timer at all can play a part in daily duties. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, and you know, I'm not out there, so I don't know. I mean, you might know more than me too, Mayor. I don't know what the need is or how to hone in on it. I just, you know, I feel like at the very least, the 2 full-timers have to be out there. And according to Megan's sheet of paper of the 50 things that they got to do, you know, they had Morgan scheduled for 30 hours, but that, you know, a lot of that had to do with the maternity leave and everything else. And so, you know, it would be nice to get, you know, all 8 people's opinions on what we need to do or lower the duties out at animal control. But something needs to happen. I mean, somebody's got to step up, have a meeting, discuss, and figure it out.
When is Morgan's
We
supposed to run out?
We voted as a council to carry Morgan through the end of January.
End of January, okay.
That was it. And done.
And when does is Megan like on halfway duty?
Officially, when does she come back full?
January.
1st of January.
Okay.
So we extended Morgan through, you know, for the month of January
Just in
to
case
make
there's
sure
any
that there,
complications.
you know, that there wasn't any problem.
So,
But if you look back to the 2023 budget where you had a full-time person and a part-time person, the job was done. And so now you got 2 full-time people. My position is maintain the 2 full-time people and no part-time
Who was
person.
it in 2023?
Pardon?
Who was it in 2023?
We had a whole, kind of had a bunch of them come to in 2023. When I first started, was it Carolyn or Paula was here first?
Megan was here full-time for 5 months, Paula for 4 months,
Yeah, and then Mackenzie
and
then
Karen for
Mark.
2
Yeah.
months.
Megan
I'm just
come
saying,
toward the end of
let's not
23.
forget some of the things that went on
Yeah, there was a lot of.
in
when I
our
first
past
came in-
out there.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I will say that, I agree with, you know, I agree with what Mr. Paul was saying earlier. I mean, they are very overwhelmed. It wasn't for the generosity of the volunteers that are out there, the 2.5 employees that out there couldn't handle it without the generosity of the volunteers, so. And what follows, and you're right, I mean, this is what comes in budget meetings. You have to make the popular decisions and also the unpopular decisions. And the unpopular decision sometimes is that, you know, we may be maintaining a level of service that we can't continue.
Yeah, Batesville, the city of Batesville does not put out a dime for animal control. You have a
Batesville also has a
You have a humane society.
full-blown humane
And that's-
society that's got
that
a
is
ton of
fully-
backing.
That is fully funded by private funding.
Yes.
It is.
We
There's
don't-
not a tax dollar in Batesville
But I mean,
spent
that's
for
just
that.
like
But-
when I was.
And yet you can contrast that with Jonesboro, their budget is over $1 million
Yeah, when I talked to the city of Jonesboro.
in Jonesboro.
It was
Mm-hmm.
million and $100,000.
But their city is sitting here, when you look at the population, look at the population of Jonesboro Metro, or Jonesboro versus Cherokee Village. Jonesboro is what? 70,000?
74,000.
74,000? So divide 4,800 souls into 74,000.
Well, let's do more like Sharp County and Fulton County versus just Cherokee Village, because again, we're the only ones here, so we're getting them from everywhere.
And Lizard County.
I mean, we
Here, this
we
is
get-
what
But
I would like
I agree with what you said. I just know that it's just not a Cherokee Village issue.
Horseshoe Bend is half the more than half the population of Cherokee Village, and as of their mayor today, I asked them, how many dogs, how many cats? 2 of each in Horseshoe Bend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's,
But we have the problem we have here with the animals and with the strays. And it's just
Understood.
booming, and it's just getting worse. And until we address that problem and start figuring out what we want that to be out there, how do we want it to run out there, what are we willing to invest or take away, it's not gonna get any better. My proposal is this, take it or leave it, is that we extend Morgan, hear me out, until a date in the spring. And during that time, I would like to see this council, Monty, Megan, Mayor, and whoever else that may be part of the animal control committee that exists right now, to get inside this room and get this problem figured out. Because keep in mind, on the back end of all of this, even with, if you up salaries, even if you have 4 buildings out there, the strays are still running the neighborhoods. And the population is there. I mean, there are certain parts of Cherokee Village that I'm sure people probably are like, I don't know what she's talking about, I don't see. Go to other parts. But on the other end of this, like, I want to see this council and Monty and Megan and you, Mayor, all of us, start doing something about the animal hoarding problem here. It's huge.
well, and part of your
And-
problem that you have fundamentally is that you have mixed animal control with humane society.
Which is why I'm sitting here saying, let's get it
There's
all.
2 purposes here.
Agree,
Yeah.
agree.
And don't get me wrong, I've had animals in my home my entire life. And I believe everybody has a right to those animals. But they also have a right and an obligation to properly license and get them to vets, get them spayed and neutered, all of those things. And we don't have a fine system in place that says if your dog is picked up and it is identified as your animal, and it doesn't have a current license, and it doesn't have a current vet vaccination for rabies and so forth, we don't have a sufficient fine situation in place.
I thought that's the new ordinances that are supposed to be coming to us.
Well, and you know, how long, we've been waiting a year for the new ordinances?
Right, I don't know who's got them.
I don't
know who's in control of
I don't know
that.
either.
So
But-
that's another question we need to ask.
But
Who's
part
got
of
it?
this is a
Where are they?
responsibility, not only of our citizens, but the surrounding citizens. Because if we pick up an animal from Hardy, and and there's some identification, we should be able to find that individual if it's not properly vaccinated, and if it's not spayed and neutered. There should be a vet record on that
Completely
animal.
agree.
And unfortunately, there's not. So there's some things that we can do to try to hold the people accountable. You know, every animal that's out there, you know, in and of itself is innocent. It's there because of the neglect of a human being.
Exactly.
And it's that disregard of that animal by that human being. So the first thing you have to do is hold the human beings accountable
Exactly.
for not caring for those animals. And the only way you're going to do that is have some level of repercussion in place. I get quoted out of these meetings all the time, so I'm just going to leave it there. We have to set priorities in terms of where we're going to spend tax dollars. And again, on that issue, I'm sorry, but it should be down the line, priority-wise. And I know people are passionate about it. You know, we've raised a lot of money over the years from people that are passionate about it. And council is going to have to come to some agreement as to where the priorities are in the dollars that we spend. And whether or not we're going to give Joey more people, or whether we're going to give animal control more people and more hours.
Well, let me ask you this. So do you have a problem extending Morgan
I do.
long enough for us to get that under control. So
I do.
you're,
I'll
okay, so not
give you-
even
I'll
that.
give you a heads up on Thursday. I will vote against the budget that continues a part-time person beyond the end of January.
Okay, so
So-
can I interject just real quick?
Please.
If we just go back to talking about Megan and Brendan being full-time, and their salaries as is, let's say, 53,250. There is no, according to everything that I hear, even from the mayor, there is no way they're not gonna not have overtime. It's a 7-day-a-week job. Monty can call Megan at any time to come out, unlike, planning and zoning is Monday through Friday, you're not getting called out for an emergency, but
Right.
animal control can. So there's no way, even if you take Morgan out of the equation, there's no way we can just stick with 53,250 because they're gonna have overtime. So,
Then you better put it in the budget, because you either have a budget you're gonna try to hold to. I mean, every other department, they try to minimize their overtime.
well, and
Why that?
Animal
said-
control,
why-
like, I don't want to keep comparing departments because animal control is different than any other department that we've got. The entire mechanism of it is. So, I mean, I think we all sit here and agree.
Every one of these departments can get called out on an emergency, whether it's a tornado, a storm, a flood, a snowstorm. They get called out. They can get called out on an emergency.
It's still different than animal control is an animal within itself. It's different than every other department. I don't want to keep comparing. We've got to fix animal control. Just stay focused on that instead of, I mean,
all
I
I'm
think,
saying is-
are you not asking about like, so if
It just-
we're not going to meet the need, then, and we're going to say no overtime. So,
I'm saying if we pull out Morgan's 20 hours a week, pull her out of the 2026 budget, that pulls out not quite $12,000. I'm just saying, whether it's emergency and, oh my God, I think overtime's gonna happen, and we have to trust our department heads that they are doing their best to minimize their overtime. So I'm just saying, I think it's safer to give animal control at the very least a $60,000 or $61,000 budget. We can come off the 73, but I'm only saying if we stick to 53,250, they're gonna overspend it. So I'm you know.
But there's there's less pressure to put in the reforms that are being discussed here, even tonight, that are needed, that if we sit there and we give them 2 full-time people, which we had 1 full-time person and a part-time person in 23 and in 24. It was only 25 that we went to 2 full-time people. And then partway through it, we accommodated because of Megan's medical situation. We added the part-time person. But if you sit back there and you extend the part-time person 6 months, you just kick the can down the road of taking the pressure off to actually institute constructive reforms.
well, no, because
within
that
the
was going to be
department.
on us, working with Monty and her. That's putting the pressure on us.
She's got to share, the department itself has to share the pressure that's put on council. They've got to sit there and they know some of the things that can be done to improve efficiencies out there. They do. I just spoke with Charlie today. Once again, they have flushed rags and blankets down into the septic system so badly that he's had to take a sump pump out there to pump out beyond and get the effluent beyond the first tank. Because he refuses to go spend $700 or $800 to pump all that, not dog crap, but blankets, toys, rags, and everything that continued to get pushed down into the septic system from the old dog building. So once again, that first tank is filled up. So you got a $700 or $800 or $900 bill to go pull all that out of there.
How does that even happen?
Yeah, that's what I'm,
How are rags and, did you say dog
Because-
toys?
Because there's no pressure to reform the process. So my point is that if you sit there and, yes, pressure this council to put in some reforms, but pressure the personnel to do a better process of clearing out the rags, the blankets, the toys, before they sit there and hose it down into the septic.
Well, I mean, I think we all agreed that we wouldn't keep Morgan, but to her point, is that if you bring it down to the, what was it, 53?
Well,
Then
you-
they're not, go
You
ahead.
gotta, if you're keeping Morgan for a month, it's gotta be 55,000. So, if you keep Morgan for a month.
and we already agreed to do that through the end of January.
And then that's what I asked
according
for,
to-
go.
yeah.
But even
But you're saying-
55,000 is an increase of 10,000 over the 24 budget, at 55,000.
Well, but then other numbers, I feel like we would need to see in order to make that argument really stick, like what was the population in 2024? Like where is the ebb and flow of what's happening at the animal shelter to then look side by side to the expenditure? Like, we can just look at numbers all day long, and unfortunately, you know, we're not at the animal shelter, that's what we're doing, and that's what we're all, you know, trying to do and be diligent with our taxpayers' dollars, but there are nuts and bolts to this that we're not privy to, at least not that I've seen, and
Then you get Mr. and Mrs. Tatum that are on the animal control, you get some of the other folks that are involved in the process, and you start finding out, and you look down through the numbers, okay? If you look on the website, the number of dogs in the facility right now are at 30. Number of cats, I think, was at, I don't know, 25 or something like that. So you have 55 animals.
Mayor,
know,
Mayor,
they-
do you have an opinion on, like, do you kind of know, do you feel like you know what's happening out there as far as their duties versus them covering their shifts? Like, are they, I mean, in your opinion, are they not staffed enough? Are they overstaffed? Do you have an opinion
Are they
on
being
what you've seen
wasteful?
over the last year?
You know, like I said, I mean, they do a lot. I mean, they're covered up, and then that's just, and we're only concentrating on their duties at the animal shelter. That's not to going out into the public and picking up animals or dealing with stray animals or
Wild animals?
you know, having to go to people's houses to, you know, write them citations for animals at large. I think what I seen last time I documented, like 29 citations.
And having someone to answer the phone.
And having somebody to
That's
answer
still a
the
problem.
phone. I mean, that's just, there's a lot of moving mechanisms out there. And like I said, it's the unpopular decision because it's like the old adage of, you know, building a restaurant and you do good business and you want to double the size of your restaurant capacity. When you double the size of the restaurant capacity, everything else goes up too.
Well,
That's-
and
So, and I'm kind of like, you know, I agree with what the police chief says. I mean, we spent 2 hours and 26 minutes chasing rabbits around the room. And to boil down to the question is, it either has to be funded correctly, and we can go back and really study if you can get the other half of the council to actually show up. And that's mean and that's rude, but if you're gonna take the time and you're gonna be a council member, you need to show up. And, you know, we need to set back and you know, maybe we need to set hard rules and regulations. But I also know if you're gonna say that you're gonna cut the salaries back to 53,000, that's in honesty, one full-time person and a short part-time person that can't handle what's out there now, so somehow they're gonna have to purge about half of the animals, whether they can adopt them out or you're gonna start talking about having a kill shelter. You start talking about having a kill shelter.
We've lost our,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
one person, 1.5 people is not gonna be able to take care of what's out there, including volunteers.
But that's why we moved it in 2025 from a full-time person and a part-time person in 2024, and supposedly the job was done in 2024, and now we've moved it to 2 full-time people in 25. I'm just sitting back here saying, we voted as a council because of the medical situation for your animal control officer, that we were gonna add a part-time person, and then all of a sudden, it just seems like we're
taking the rabbit another lap around the room, and when you boil it down, it's, we either fund it to its fullest, or we cut the funding. If we cut the funding, we're cutting services.
My question is this, if you
Which I
cut
mean,
it back.
Either way, I'm the mayor, you tell me what to do. You're the council, you vote, you tell me to do it, I'll administrate it.
And I've told you what I was willing to support. And, you know, there's 8 people on council, and they can choose to vote their conscience on when they see the numbers. But just because a government entity, it doesn't have to be the city, but take the federal government as an example. If they sit there and they have some supplemental funding temporarily to meet a need, and then they treat that as baseline for the next year, then they're saying, well, no, we have to fund it at this increased level, plus an adjustment. And if we're going to get caught up in that type of circle, then, hey, bump it up to 200,000. What the heck?
They've actually already done that. I mean, that's how come the child care got cut and the grants got cut. I mean, nobody got any federal money this year. But I mean, I understand. It's a hard decision. I mean, it's.
Well, it is, because you're allocating limited tax dollars across higher needs. And you got to make a decision. Are we going to police, fire, and roads, and planning and zoning, and then we're just going to move from, you know, at one point we were, in my 11 years, at one point we were at 60,000. And then Les Covington was still sitting here on council when we bumped above 80,000. And then we hung right in around 90,000. And now we're talking about 136,000. And this has been a progression just in 2 years. In 2 years. And I don't think your animal situation expanded that greatly in 2 years. Yes, we did add buildings, no doubt. But we didn't have to fill them.
Well, I was actually going
So
to.
even if you drop it to 53,000, you're pulling it down to what, 120?
53,000, you drop it down from 136 to 116.
Yeah, 116 is 20 grand.
And 116 is still $26,000 more than your 23 budget.
So my only question at this point is, if you pull it down to the 53, Monty, can they get, and that's no overtime, correct? I'm understanding that correct, Kevin?
No. We said that last year.
Right.
Morgan
gone.
And them not working 1 second
Okay.
over a 40-hour work.
So can everything get done and maintained under those circumstances?
I don't know the answer to that question. Like I said, I try to keep overtime to a minimum. We don't call them out on weekends. We don't call them out after hours. I've had officers that could. I've had people call and complain that they've had strays, but I tell them, well, you're going to have to call back. Animal control is off duty right now. Call back tomorrow.
But they do have to feed and water on Saturdays
Well,
and Sundays.
yeah, that's my question. I mean, Megan left, and I understand why she had to, but.
But they do take turns going out on weekends to feed them water, which is 2 hours maybe, if that much.
And that also cuts out all the adoption events. Because they won't be able to do, if they don't have no overtime, they can't do any adoption events.
And from what?
And once again, that does fall back to picking the animals up.
I don't want the translation to seem, especially, I'm going to actually speak to Councilman Thompson specifically. I don't want the assumption or the perception to be that your opinion and your voice and your doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. And when we're literally looking at just line items and numbers and percentages and variances and all of that, your point absolutely 100% holds water, and I would absolutely stand behind it 100%. I just feel that what has happened is we've identified all these issues, or issues we feel like are happening at animal control, and efficiencies that could be improved upon, processes that could be improved upon. And but we're not actually getting in there to help do it. Now, if we were truly paying people that had tons of head of department experience where they knew how to go in and trim the fat and do all this thing, this would be a different conversation. I feel what I was going to suggest was exactly what Councilwoman Rowland said, where we extend it and we set a date. Like in my mind, I was thinking March 31st, and we use the first quarter to really get in there and figure out where we're bleeding, what we can do, call some agencies to see about agencies that will fly animals to other parts of the country, to other no-kill shelters. How can we reduce our population? What can we do to get the other communities involved with helping us? Like, let's really put the work, let's really get it done, but let's extend it so that we can keep everything as it is right now and then go backwards and figure it out from there. And not let it be a blank check that, to your point, that they get to just fill in the amount. We put in a timeline. We put in a deadline. I'm happy to head that charge. I'm happy to do whatever I can. But I feel like if we go ahead and trim it down to a number that makes us happy without understanding what that means, I feel like we're going to end up seeing her saying, I'm going to be over budget within the first couple months. And why do that to her? Why do that to us? Let's just go ahead and suck the venom out of the bite and set a timeline and get in there and try to figure this out, or at least move the needle as much as we can. And then go from there and be like, no, either we're shutting services down, we're changing, we're doing something different. But until we all have that moment and we become fully knowledgeable of what it takes to run this particular department, we keep it as it is, at least through the end of March. That was going to be my suggestion.
Mayor and Penny, would you guys care to send out an email to the council members that are not here and ask them, request for them to watch this meeting before Thursday's meeting to get caught up, so that when this comes back up Thursday night, we've got the other half of our council to look into what they think, so we don't have to do this again. I mean, I had to miss our last working meeting, and I felt terrible about it because I don't like to miss meetings. But because that's out there now, I was able to watch it and be fully prepared and caught up last city council meeting. It was like, as if I was right there with you guys at night. So other council members need to do that.
Yeah. So what do we?
So for the purposes of the budget, if that's an easier way to make my suggestion, I say that we approve a $60,000 budget and use the first quarter to try to trim the fat, figure out what we can do differently, processes, help however we can, but then when it's gone, it's gone.
So what does that number do if you run it to the end of the first quarter? Heather, you said if we do it to the end of January, it's 55. What is 2 more months of Morgan part-time? Add to the 55?
I'd add $2 more thousand.
Add 2 more thousand?
Yeah, if you keep her at 20-ish, 22 hours a week.
So 55 becomes 57?
Mm-hmm.
Not 60?
Well,
Yeah,
but that's you not accounting for the entire year, you not accounting for 1 second overtime with Brendan and Megan.
And I understand that.
I think
It puts
that's a good
pressure on us.
request.
It puts pressure on us on the first 90 days, the first quarter, to sit there and come up with improved processes that should hopefully eliminate the overtime.
Yep.
Now, a budget is not set in concrete.
Right.
You know, if the reality of the situation is they can't or are unable to implement improvement in processes and they can't meet that 57,000, then we come back and we amend the budget.
Yep.
But I think we've got to set some very reasonable, attainable goals.
That I agree with.
And based on, you know, Councilman Lowe's suggestions, you know, I would compromise, you know, to the 57 through the end of the first quarter. But we're going to have to get high behind and identify and communicate and implement the processes.
And I think it's a fair request that if you extend that into the first quarter, then unless Monty just absolutely needs them for something, we expect to see no overtime. Make it work.
And I already do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Not to call it out. Occasionally it has to happen, but I try my best
Yeah.
not to do that.
Well, and if people want to sit here and pull a permit, we don't call in, our planning and zoning folks to work evenings and weekends. The office is closed. To Monty's point, the overtime can be managed.
Yeah. You do have to make sure the animals are cared for through the weekend.
I don't dispute that. But again, to Mr. Hench's comment, you got a cadre of volunteers that are volunteering their time. Manage that time. Have them come in and do some of the feeding and so forth that is necessary to supplement the paid overtime hours. That ought to be some of the processes that we're talking about.
Right.
If you have a volunteer that wants to come out just when the days are sunny, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of volunteers that go out there. Julie Milligan comes to mind, a number of people that I got to meet out there, they come in all weather, under all circumstances, and they volunteer their time and do a lot of things that other people wouldn't do. But you're going to have to sit there and get them tuned into what is the schedule for Megan and Brendan, and find out how to supplement those hours that you manage your overtime down.
That is a good point. Is there any type of, obviously they're volunteers, so there's no written in blood that they have to be there, but is there a tentative schedule that the volunteers use to sign
These
up?
are all the things
It's
that we
no
need to
different
get.
than their volunteer.
Because that's a very good
Yeah.
point.
I don't know.
I agree with you on that.
Fluctuate the-
So Ms. Heather, so just put that it's 57, and we'll work, if we have to have 5 meetings a
But
week,
it's
we'll have 5
six.
meetings a week to get it done.
Well,
With a note out to the side that we're gonna, 57 will get them through
Yep.
2/3 of a year.
No, it gets them through the first quarter.
Yeah, it does.
The deadline, his deadline for the meeting Thursday is carry the staffing to the end of March, the first quarter. And we get focused on trying to improve processes and improve overall management of the situation out there.
I will just be crystal clear when we talk about it Thursday night, what that salary covers and what it doesn't cover. And, I can just only hope for the best that we can put this subject to rest and get it operating the way it needs to operate, or something's gonna. Okay,
Alrighty, good to go?
I think so.
So here you go, 2 hours and 42 minutes later, we're actually gonna get into what the agenda is. So anyway, in old business in the agenda is the election terms for the clerk that we had talked about. Can't do it, against the law. Takes legislation in Little Rock,
Really?
yeah. Municipally, Ms. Kennedy.
I thought about it the other day, and it's this has to go through Tanya at Stark County. So I went out there and she talked to the state while I was there. You just can't change your terms. You need to talk to your attorney to find out what you need to do. But you can't just change your terms like that. So we're at a standstill right now until
Yeah,
we
that's
get
go.
it figured out.
That goes to state laws and state legislators. Old business number 2, the Waste Connection contract. Well, I don't have it in front of me. I don't think it's in my
It
packet.
should be in there.
Okay. All righty. Mr. Caleb Alexander McKenzie from the Municipal League Attorneys emailed a mass email out, I think it's actually not Friday, didn't it? Says Stephen Hendrick and X Dumpsters versus the City of Holiday Island. The City of Holiday Island had contracted with a single entity for waste removal services in the city. adopted the ordinance prohibiting city residents from contracting with any other entities for supplemental, keyword, supplemental trash removal services. Roll-off dumpster service provided X Dumpsters, that's the name of the company, X Dumpsters, filed a suit challenging the legality of the ordinance prohibiting them from providing supplemental roll-off dumpster services to the residents. The Arkansas Supreme Court held that we conclude the city lacked the statutory authority to enact the portion of the ordinance barring city residents from contracting with X Dumpsters or others to provide supplemental safe solid waste removal services. It goes on to say that the cities can contract with a single municipal or a single entity to provide solid waste removal, but such a contractor agreement cannot prohibit residents from contracting with other entities for supplemental, keyword supplemental, solid waste services under current language of the statute. It says if your city or town has entered into any such exclusive agreement that excludes other entities from providing supplemental services, then in the municipality could face legal liability if attempts are made to enforce the exclusionary. Basically, it means if you're doing a tear down or something, or you get the trash bins, yes, we can contract for the single entity to provide trash services to the individuals. But if you're doing, the dumpsters, the roll-off dumpsters, what we're talking about, like when they have people come and you do remodels and you have a roll-off, the cities cannot have exclusivity or prohibit somebody from using a contractor of their choice services. So I send it back to Waste Management's Mr. Shawn, and they're going through their legal, because this was the Waste Connection company in Holiday Island, so they're fully aware of it. They're going through their legality departments to find out how they can, changing the language in the contract. So we're back in a holding pattern on that one. And on the ADUs, it says Eddie Ishmael, he's not here.
And so he actually wasn't at the special planning and zoning meeting that city council voted to ask planning and zoning to have. I actually was there. I have heard back from the municipal league, and I do have example ordinances that have been written to accommodate the new ADU House Bill 813. I also have even taken a stab at writing one for us. But the good news is that there is nothing punitive that will happen at the state level for any township that does not have the ordinance fully passed and in effect. It basically just says that as a city, as of the 1st, we cannot stand in the way of a citizen. We do not have to require a variance hearing or anything for someone that wants to put up an ADU. We just have to make sure that it stands with our building codes and with our setback requirements, wastewater, all of those things we already knew. So the good news is we do have a little bit of time, but but Municipal League wanted to make sure that we knew that as of the 1st, we have to hear it, we have to allow them to do it, and
just for those in YouTube land and the crowd, it's ADU stands for auxiliary dwelling unit.
Exactly. So, yeah. So anyway, so I'm like we just talked today. Actually, I talked to Caleb Alexander as well. So we talked today, and he's going to get me some more information. But we're well on our way to working with planning and zoning to get this all ironed out.
All right. And new business, the legislative audit, our final ruling come in. So you got the deal before you. We was advised by the legislative audits that we have to talk about every page.
That was one thing that I was stressed on during my audit, was that my minutes said last year we discussed them, and the auditor asked me what we discussed, that every page needed to be discussed and put in the minutes.
And just for everybody, we passed legislative audit. They no reportable deficiencies. I mean, we did good, and we actually We was lucky enough that, you can either go on a 1 year, it's either 1 year or 2 years. We was lucky that we did 24 and 25, so we're hoping maybe they'll skip us for 26, because it's quite comprehensive when they come in. But, anyway, you got to, should have them in front of you, but really don't know how to do this.
Hey, Mayor.
You have the first page.
Nope, go ahead. Nope, sorry.
No, go ahead, that's just,
Well, those are also mailed to our residences.
yes.
So can we state for the record that we have read every single page and reviewed it? And my compliments to, our front office staff. We passed with flying colors and,
It's in the council packet online too, isn't it?
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can we attest for the record that we personally have reviewed it and then go down and poll each?
At council, yes.
Okay. So can we send out an email to the council members to
It's
take
in your
the,
council packet.
Yeah.
right? But that they specifically
push it out?
reviewed that audit for voting purposes, that we are going to attest that we've reviewed it?
Yeah, we can send out notice.
Okay.
You had a question, Ms. Family?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to go back real quick before we move forward to the whole ADU ordinance and Eddie so this council requested planning and zoning to have that special meeting.
Yes.
Not only to kind of discuss that, but to get to the bottom of how the shed out there,
On Santa Fe.
thank you, and how all that came about. So Eddie's not here tonight, but will Eddie have a report, because we just put him on there to be our representative on planning and zoning? Will he be giving us a report on what all came of that meeting and where we stand and how it came about? And
Tom's here. Were you there at that meeting, Tom?
Yes. There wasn't anything decided or anything. There's nobody,
I think it was a very
nobody
unorganized.
wanted to admit how it happened.
I'm very, what? I'm sorry.
Nobody wanted to admit how the permit was even issued, so.
But I mean, we have records in planning and zoning. What do you mean?
I mean, I've asked the question how they got a permit to put this shed on this property, and I could not get an answer.
Well, and
Never
he,
could get an answer.
and he also specifically said that even if the shed was approved, we don't allow for a shed to go on a property first.
Right.
If you buy a parcel, you can't.
It's our zoning laws to put a shed on a vacant property,
Right.
period. And I asked flat out the question.
Exactly that.
Why, how did that permit get issued? And the room went silent.
So the question I have is, can the permit be revoked? Because it's in breach of city ordinance.
The city issued it.
Who would revoke it? Who's responsible for revoking it if they can?
If they can't, nobody fits the right.
But
I don't
How
know.
do we not have paperwork that shows who granted it? That's where I'm getting confused.
Well, they had to get it from the P and Z office. That's a coin toss between three people.
But won't our paperwork show who?
I don't dispute
I'm
that.
just lost on how there was this meeting and nobody has,
Nobody's answered my question. Yeah.
Well, you'd already talked about Charlie coming for Thursday to talk about her property, if he's here Thursday.
I don't think he is now because he had a death in the family and they
Yeah, I
agreed.
just had to ask. I don't
Yeah.
know if he can be or
Yeah,
not.
okay.
Gotcha.
You're right. I was just gonna say he'd be here for both subjects.
Yeah.
He didn't answer it the other day either, to see who's here.
He did say,
I'm
because
just-
I was at the meeting. I was the only one from council that was there. And I asked, and they told me, they said that in the meeting that there was some confusion because there was a citizen who lives close by that came to the planning and zoning meeting, and he brought it up, and he specifically said he was told by the clerk in the office that had been rezoned to allow. And we then questioned, it has not been brought before council that anything was rezoned, and she said, well, it was being discussed to be rezoned. So therein lies, I think that kind of may be part of the culprit here is maybe some assumptions or maybe some preemptive actions before things, escalated the way they're supposed to. But when pushed and asked very specific questions as to how this happened, why this happened, it was very, I think the actual answer was, that's a really good question, was the answer. So, and the resident, and then I drove by myself to look at it, and the beautiful bright pink permit literally says shed, not home, not anything else. So it is very confusing to anyone that is wondering what's going on, but it is clearly being hooked up to septic. And Charlie did indicate that the owner said they were going to build, they had a conditional permit to then build on to make it within the specified square footage, but they're already living in it.
Did you just say that to build onto the shed?
Okay, so let me.
To make it the correct size.
Let me understand an issue here, and maybe Tom and you both can address this. So they got a permit to install a shed. Did they?
Which you aren't allowed to install.
Pardon?
Which you aren't allowed to install.
No, I understand. So they got a permit to install a shed. Did they get a permit, an occupancy permit? Because if I go build a structure, I get a construction permit.
I don't know.
And then I have inspections for electrical, plumbing, so on and so forth. And, the city inspector can come out. But at some point, that property has to be certified for occupancy.
Yes.
We had those ordinances on the books, right? So my point is that if they didn't get an occupancy permit, then they're illegally in that structure. Is that an actionable item?
And if so, who and how would that be overturned and enforced?
We got the same problem out there.
But it's not something to be overturned. They got a permit to install a shed. They didn't get a permit to occupy it.
Well,
Nor can you if you have no septic.
They both said that they understood that they would be living in it. It was not filed and gotten under false pretenses. They didn't say we're just getting a shed. They were going to convert this shed into a home.
Yeah, it was alternative housing.
Yes. That was communicated directly to the team, so it wasn't like that was done under false pretenses.
So does our P&Z clerk understand the difference between a construction permit and an occupancy permit? Yes or no?
Because we had the same problem on the garage out on Omaha Lake. That was permitted
Yep.
as a garage,
Without a
which
house.
was illegal
Yep.
on that lot. That turned into a house. That is now abandoned and grown up in weeds.
Yep.
But recently just sold. It did sell from that owner to
Should have never
another.
been able to be sold. It's
Yeah.
illegal.
It doesn't meet specifications of the house,
But it was
so.
also, they come in and give false, give not entirely true
Truthful.
information. They want to build a garage to store the stuff in while they built the house.
But
And then,
our zoning laws do not allow that, period.
House has to be built first.
We can't give
The
exceptions.
house has to go first. You cannot build your garage first in Cherokee Village.
you can come to court when they have court, and you can see what the judge does with our zoning stuff. He doesn't
Yeah,
find
that-
very many of them
We
guilty.
can't allow the permit.
It's not gonna happen.
What'd you just say, Tom?
I said, if we don't issue the permit to build the garage, we don't have the permit.
And there is the only real control that we ultimately have is on that front end, not on the back end.
Right.
I don't think we have issued. The council voted to put permits on hold. If it's
Well, yeah,
under
for 1,000, yeah, under-
1,000 square foot and under.
Yeah.
Which also, if I believe, I'm not defending the shed, but if you look in on the city's website in the Santa Fe edition, there is no square footage restrictions. Because it's a mobile home park.
But mobile
Made for
homes,
single wide mobile homes that are less than 1,000 square foot. There's no square foot restrictions on it.
But that wasn't a mobile home.
And mobile homes do come with a certificate of occupancy. They're insurable. I mean, do we even know if this thing is insurable? And is that a liability? How is it tied down? If it blows into someone else's trailer or mobile home or home, are we gonna be liable? Just, I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole here, but like, these are the things that concern me.
So, based on your research there, do we have any problem going past January 1 without a resolution on that shed?
No.
Shed does not,
Yeah,
You're
because
talking about two
the ADU verbiage is very clear that it is literally an accessory dwelling unit,
Yeah.
meaning it's an add-on to an
It
existing.
has to be built in a
Stru- yeah.
single-family dwelling.
So this doesn't have any
Yeah, you-
jurisdiction over
That's what I
this
kept trying
issue.
to tell Councilman
Okay.
Jason, and
I'm
you know,
sorry.
and they wouldn't listen. I said, you're dealing with two issues. The shed is one issue, ADUs is another issue. There's two
Right.
issues that's been confused. You know, I mean, so the ADU can only be, in my understanding, I know Jason has delved into it very deeply, but an auxiliary dwelling unit can only be built if there is already an existing single-family residence on the lot.
Well, and then just
And
for,
and it still has to meet setbacks, it still has to meet the septic, perk test and other things. It just, basically it says the state can't say you can't build one just because you can't build it. As long as it meets, IRBC and meets all setbacks and septic and, you know, you have to provide a service. The thing that I'm wondering about, and maybe you know a little bit better about this since you've been delved into it, but when I read it is, you know, they give no provisions in there. Are we gonna call it, we have a line of residences over here that was never, that was common property that was never meant to be sold, that was subdivided, so they're 52A through Z. So if they build an auxiliary dwelling unit, are we gonna call it 52AB?
those,
I mean,
from,
what are we gonna number it?
my understanding
And
is
one of the
that,
other things is, is the state gonna mandate that they be sold as a unit? Or say you build an ADU out beside your house and you decide to sell it. Can you sell it?
well, from the real estate side of that question, the answer is no. Because
part of
it's
the
on the
house.
same parcel, it's all one parcel, unless we're gonna give permission to subdivide that parcel, then that's the only way it could be sold separately. But to go back to your other point, this rabbit hole all started when I asked specifically the clerk how we ended up issuing a permit for this shed, and her response was, well, because of the ADU bill that the state just passed. So that's when I researched it and saw that ADU bill has nothing to do with approval of that shed going on that parcel by itself. So,
Well,
so.
So is there any kind of plan about the shed? Because I know like we had the one gentleman that lives there that came very upset at the meeting, and
And he will most likely be here Thursday.
And also to go along
so
with,
there's no plan?
to go along
No,
with,
I mean, we got nowhere. We had a meeting, we really, it's a waste of another hour and a half of my time.
Well, in fairness, we did we knew what we wanted to do to address the ADU, which in fairness was the reason for the special meeting, because we thought we were under this deadline with the state. Well, there is a deadline, but there's nothing punitive that will happen.
But
So,
if we were under a deadline, we would have never met.
right, number one.
Because we had no information.
But from that meeting, which of course was public, this gentleman showed up, and he was the one that brought it up, and then we all, as a group, started talking about it. So it kind of turned into both at that special meeting.
So let me ask you this. At this point, does the P&Z clerk understand that a shed is a shed and an ADU is an ADU, and we're not to mix the two?
I do think that is the understanding now, but I do also think to Pam's point, we do need to decide with this specific issue, with this specific shed that's already there, we need to decide what we're going to do about it and determine our course of action.
If she didn't know the difference between a shed And she shouldn't have been in that position to begin with.
Well, I mean, people do make mistakes, and you know, when you're in a job, you know, you're making decisions on the fly. I'm certainly not defending or praising. I'm just saying, like, you know, looking at this as a person that's made a mistake or two.
And then something else, I mean, the state legislature changed like 179 laws in the last legislative session.
But either way, it was still.
It's hard to keep up with 179 laws.
It was still, whenever you look at a shed or a piece of property that didn't have a house on it.
Yeah, but you didn't, you know, I mean,
Wait,
whatever.
something was wrong.
I'm trying to get you to understand, they change laws every year. Just like you see, just like I read this law about the supplemental trash deal, the city of Holiday Island got in a lawsuit because they had a contract, an exclusivity contract. Guess what? Somebody took them to court and the city lost. Now they're paying out the nose.
I thought the garage thing happened way before that.
I'll be honest with you, ma'am.
Oh, a long time
The
ago.
way I'm just being honest with you. Hold on, let me finish. I'm being honest with you. I think the way things are right now, with the way our lawyers and the judges rule on things, I honestly think if anybody was to take the city to court on any of our planning and zoning ordinances, the city will lose.
Yep.
If you want my honest opinion.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Because the courts are ruling in, they're ruling in favor of people's, you know, first, fourth, fifth, and 11th Amendment rights. And they're not allowing government to come in and lord over people. So, I mean, I really think, honestly, you want my honest opinion, that's what I believe. And I've been here in court and watched the court process go through when our planning and zoning, code enforcement officer Charlie and Robert Blaine stuff to court. And nothing happens, it gets null crossed, or we got one that we've been dealing with since February. The judge actually said that, told Charlie, quit going by there. He said, every time you go by there, you're harassing the guy. He said, I could charge you with harassment. So, I mean, we can't even go by the guy's house and look at it anymore. So, I mean, and we've been dealing with it since February. So, I mean, you're asking me for a solution. Apparently, the judges on the bench don't even know, so, I mean.
But all the more reason why on the front end, when they walk into this building, we have to sing out of the same hymn book and say the same thing every time. And if a variance is needed, that is, we dog-ear that page and we come back to it after others have been consulted, other processes are in place to make variant decisions, but we cannot allow things like this to happen. Cannot. Because to the mayor's point, once we then try to fix it and then we're taken to court, the rest is history. So I agree with you 100%, but we have to fix it on the front end, and the front end right now is a problem.
Last question then is, can the P&Z clerk hit the pause button and go consult the mayor and city attorney before a permit is issued? Is it mandatory to issue a permit within the same day, the same hour? Somebody shows up for a permit and there's any question raised on the part of the clerk's mind.
We'll get back to
Can
you.
she say, we'll get back to you in a day or two and we'll check this out?
I don't know what the time limit is, but I would think there is a time limit. I don't think she has to do it on the spot.
If you want to permit hiring, you have to go before the monthly meeting of the P&Z. They should risk one day a month.
For anything?
You have to go in front of the P&Z. If you want to put an electric meter on your house,
Well, I don't
you
think,
have to go in front of the P&Z meeting,
well,
commission to get that permit.
I think,
So there's no deadline.
I'm just saying maybe we can possibly communicate that permit requests
Oh, they're going to know what's
Possibly.
going on YouTube. Everybody in the world's
so
going to know
maybe,
by tomorrow.
maybe the complicated ones or the out of the ordinary ones or the whatever, hit the pause button or, you know, because I think it's a benefit to the workers of Cherokee Village that can keep their businesses going with as much construction as
That's
we
a
have
good
going
point.
on here.
Right.
But if there's a lot to know and, you know,
Well, we're generally known, and I mean, you guys know as well, that we're generally known that everything I hear says, don't build in Cherokee Village, they're too restrictive. I mean, that's all I ever hear. They said, and we run businesses off. We don't want businesses. Don't go to Cherokee. They run businesses off and they're too restrictive.
I think this is just strictly in these kind of cases to where the
Just
thing
one
like the
house.
garage and the shed,
Yeah.
you know, don't happen again. Because now, I mean, now what, you know?
Right, I mean, otherwise,
I don't know.
if you got somebody that's gonna come and install a septic, or if you have somebody that's gonna install a HVAC unit.
Common
I mean,
sense,
those
yeah.
are common, everyday things, and they're just looking to make sure you're dealing with a licensed contractor
Yeah.
and so forth. But when you have a one-off
Yeah.
of a shed on an empty lot, or a garage on an empty lot, perhaps, hold on, we're gonna have to check on it, let us get back to you, and, you know,
And put the burden
Not-
on us. Put the burden on us. Hey,
Yeah.
I've got to get back to my council on this, or I have to, or whatever needs to be said, but
Whatever you want. You're the council.
Mayor, I have a question since we're kind of in,
Oh, we're chasing rabbits around.
I feel like this has been one of the
I
most
do too.
productive meetings we've had in a long time. But since we're on planning and zoning, after we made our ordinances more robust, did you have a chance to kind of like get a meeting with the judge again
I have no.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping maybe after we did that,
Yeah.
that might.
No,
But
I have
if the council needs to do something,
Yeah.
you know, because, I mean, like, we're process servers. And so that's one of the many things that we do. And I mean, I know, you know, our police officers are out driving around, and anyone who's been out driving around, like, Cherokee Village is getting bad. I mean, it just is. And it looks terrible. And if the holdup and the problem is going to be the judge, then I'm ready for this council to get creative and figure out something to do something about that. I was hoping the more robust ordinances, you know, and maybe you have a meeting with them and just say, what's the deal? You know, what can we do? But I think we're almost to the point to where just when citizens call us, give them the judge's number, call him.
And what I've seen a lot of is in the court is that the judge will say, have they made progress? I mean, me and you look at it, and they've moved it from, they moved the pile from here to here. That's progress. We'll give them another 90 days. I'm like, I ain't never seen the likes, but hey, election time's coming.
4 years.
Yeah. And nobody ever runs
Yeah.
against, so.
All righty, on to the lawsuit. I know everybody knows by now, and since the lawsuit's been, I don't really know. I know it's written down as a lawsuit, but I don't really think it's really the right word for it. It was the writ of mandamus. Mr. Kronkowski he was the petitioner, case number 25 CV-25-10. Mr. Mark Kronkowski, the petitioner, versus myself, Stephen R. Rose, in his capacity as mayor of Cherokee Village. I was the respondent. The judge's order, it's all in the package, it's on the website. The judge's order has ordered me by Monday, the 22nd, to appoint a special administrator to get into the suburban improvement district to complete. I think in here when I read it, there's it's 13 items to go through to satisfy the judge's ruling. So, and as you said, I hope to have the name by Thursday's council meeting for somebody that will agree to do it. And as far as the pay, I mean, I figure, and I'm just saying, I'm saying the city's gonna get stuck holding the bill, is what I'm gonna say, but that's me. You can ask the attorney Thursday at the meeting, but, I always feel maybe I'm the pessimist on the group, but we seem to get stuck holding the bill.
I would ask the judge, because you're being required by the court to appoint an administrator to have things carried out by SID that were not carried out. Is that a fair summation of that?
Yes.
Whether it's transparency reports or
Yeah.
whatever other reports. So being that those were the original responsibilities of SID, I don't think it's unreasonable to present SID with a bill for the cost of bringing that back into compliance. They can always say no,
Yeah,
but,
that'd be a-
you know, the action or lack of action on the part of,
we can just bill them for the billable hours. And just see, I mean, if they pay, if they don't, they don't. We can cross that bridge when the time comes.
And hopefully it'll be a short period of time.
That's the.
I mean, to get the 13 things you said done
Yeah,
that need to
whatever,
be done.
yeah, and to do it exactly as the judge's order states.
Can you put that in your response?
In my
Or is it
response.
writing, where the judge can see that when you're responding to those questions about billing SID for the time?
Yeah, we can do that, yeah,
Or at
Yeah.
least if that's something in writing.
yeah. That'd be a way to do it, so.
The 13 points from the judge don't specify who's going to pay.
No.
How convenient.
She just, if I remember right, and I know Mr. Ruger was there, but she just expressed that she wanted this done expeditiously. I know that's a big word for a redneck like me, but that means fast, quick, and in a hurry.
And that took you 2 weeks to sign. And that took you 2 weeks to sign.
Her, yeah, Judge Myers, yeah. Took 2 weeks to get it signed and finalized, yes. So. But,
And
as
there's
I
still
said
a lot
today
of
on the phone,
ambiguity to this,
One thing
though.
I've learned as being mayor is
Okay.
that the wheels of progress turn mighty slow when mired in the muck of politics.
I mean, there's still a lot of ambiguity because the 13 points are basically like a timeline of the failures, but don't really have a ton of like, once this and this and this is done, it's been satisfied and everyone can kind of,
In the law, in the original law that's quoted, the 1486-2102, that act gives the authority of the mayor or county judge to appoint an administrator over improvement districts. The act, you know, when the Act 359 that amended it, you know, in the original law, it was just a $1,000 fine. They went back in 2021 and they amended it and added to Act 359, removed the fine process of $1,000, added the part about the mayor or county judge can appoint an administrator, and they serve at the will of the mayor. So, I mean, it could be, I mean, I went over Friday and talked to Mr. Delvecchio, that is the special administrator for Horseshoe Bend. I can't remember which one it is. They got an MRID and an MSID, and I think they got another one. But anyway, he's the special administrator over one of the improvement districts, and I didn't realize that he's still the special administrator. He's been there 3 years, and he said that their mayor's not going to release him until the end of his term.
and did you ask who's paying that administrator?
Well, there's a lot of comparisons going around, and they said, well, Horseshoe Bend did this, and this is how Horseshoe Bend did it, so this is how Cherokee should do it. Well, you have to go back, and maybe this is the fallacy of me living here my whole 48 years of life, but Horseshoe Bend was a city that in 1980 decided they wanted to form the MRID and the MSID, and I'm pretty sure there's another one, there's 3 of them. I can't remember what they call them. The city introduced the ordinance that was voted on by council to form the improvement districts to build the golf course, the lake, and the roads and streets.
right.
So then the city was the parent of the SID. So then when the current mayor come in, they would, you know, had some issues. I won't go into it because it's a whole big deal, but the mayor appointed the special administrator, so it was always the city. You know, even though it was an improvement district, it was still always the city. They had appointed commissioners. Ours is a little unique, and that's what I tried to explain to the judge, is that the suburban improvement district was founded in I think they started in 1969, but they signed the papers in like 71, wasn't it?
71 or 74
Yeah,
or something
71 or
like that.
72. They started the petition process in 1969. So Cherokee Village was an improvement district that in 1998 decided to be a city. We wasn't the parents of the SID. The county judge at the time, the original corporation papers of Cherokee Village were signed by the Sharp County judge at the time. And I'm sorry, I did know his name, I had it on the tip of my head, but anyway, the Sharp County judge in 1969 signed the incorporation papers, so the city of Cherokee Village was never the parent of the SID. The SID has always been here, and then the city decided in 1998 to be a city. And as I stated when we had our joint the SID commissioners meeting and the city council when we was discussing the fire station properties and stuff, I said, here we go again. I'm not politically correct, and this is my personal opinion, is that the founders of the city of Cherokee Village and the SID commission at that time, set us up in a bad way, because there should have been something. They should have got together then and had some kind of plan worked out. And here we are, some 27 years later down the road, dealing with the fallout of a ill-planned deal.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, lucky for us. We get, there we go again. We get stuck with a check again. And we go out to eat a meal and we get stuck with a check. So,
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Did I
I'm sorry, I
interrupt?
heard somebody, but I'm hard of hearing out of my right side, so I couldn't hear. But anyway, I mean, there again, just like we've been talking about the animal control, it's another subject that's gonna create a lot of contention, and that's one of the things I expressed to the judge, is that I believe, we can go forward and we can get this figured out to get them back in this legal compliance of the paperwork that they're not, that they wasn't in compliance in. And I expressed to her then that I believe it was going to come at a great cost. It was going to cost, it was going to cost somebody some money.
Yeah, been
It
great
was going to be a financial burden to somebody. But we're going to work through it. We got a judge's order.
Stephen, did anybody present to the judge that, hey, there's an impending election coming up, they're going to be sitting in a new board of commissioners, and can they tackle this question at that point? What's the necessary expediency here?
I did express in the courtroom testimony that we had a new interim general manager, and that's we've been working well with. Miss Penny's been helping out, so we've been working well with, and they're electing a new board of commissioners in January, and there's a possibility we could work through it, but the judge felt that if you read the law, it's very strict in its writing. It doesn't have any leniency. So, she said she had no choice but to fine for it, because there's no other alternative in how the law is written.
So being part of this, 2102 actually dictates what happens when an administrator is appointed. They do take control of the city, they do take the powers of all board of commissioners. The board of commissioners is basically become a name. That's it. We don't make any decisions. The law also states that the special administrators ensure that the city is in compliance with all laws, all state laws. Doesn't just say this. And the last two paragraphs of that order, written by the judge, and actually you'll see where she handwrote stuff in it, but not limited to. The last two paragraphs also includes more than just the 11 points of allowing the transparency. So the way it's understood is that once the special administrator is appointed, then he becomes, or she becomes the fiduciary of the city, and then therefore becomes liable for any, I guess, any lawsuits and not following the law. So it's not an easy job by any means, because city is not compliant with any law, or the state laws.
dare say I don't think the filing was due like the day it was done properly, therefore illegal. So not only do we got that, we got a illegal exaction suit coming for the last 3 years, but technically there's 4 years of illegal filings because the law only allows for 3 years of time. So we got that. The commissioners, the election of those, which that's illegal too, but you would still fill the vacancies. They just wouldn't have any authority or power until the administrator leaves. And he's right. The administrator is the heir. So it doesn't matter whether you're mirrored under the city or whatever. It states, 2101 states the intent of the law is that all improvement districts are to do this. And our understanding was that the 2102 or the Act 359 was modified, removed the fine, and I think changed the March date to April 1st date and December 15th date as a set date. It said in there that the mayor of the municipality, in part or all, that the city laws or the county shall, they changed that to, in legal terms, shall is not a, I think, or whatever it means that he will do, or she will do. And that was the whole thing. And when I took the information I found to the mayor to initiate this process, I chose the mayor to go to over this because the most affected here is city. You could say county is as well, because if city goes, the city probably going to go, if the city goes, the county probably going to go, because we're the base. And then there's discussion that he and I had over all that too. But, the whole thing is from my understanding, the intent of these laws is that they're not following their transparency reports, which are pretty detailed. Then there's more issues behind it, which we found there's way issues that are serious issues.
So, Mr. Greer, my understanding is you found some discrepancies and you went to the judge before contacting the city or the city administration to try to solve this problem for turning it into a giant mess.
Wrong. I went to the commissioners. I've got copies of emails where everyone was CC'd with the issues. Went to a city or a CID meeting and brought it up, and it still got pushed away.
So the commissioners tabled it, or they didn't take any action, or they
Just like everything else, me and anybody that's on from my group does, it gets pushed away and no weight puts up. Nothing. Otherwise, over the last 4 years, we would be having issues. Period.
Like I said, just moving on, we can talk about this after we close the meeting, but
Can I ask a question? What does fiduciary entail?
Fiduciary means that they are the ones responsible for CID.
Who are they?
It'd be the
Who is
administrator.
qualified to be a fiduciary representative?
It'd be whoever he appoints as administrator.
I didn't ask that. I asked him what does it entail in a fiduciary? You seem to know an awful lot, and that seems like a very generic term, fiduciary.
Well, they come and take all powers and authority of the commissioners. They run the CID. They make all decisions for the CID. So a fiduciary is what? Somebody that takes control. Huh?
What background do they have?
It doesn't matter.
Picked up anybody off the street.
Well, what background our GM had?
hey, we'll continue this after the meeting. We'll take care of this first. But anyway, that's the last what we got on the agenda.
I've got one more good news.
Oh, and I forgot this.
Briefly told you, but at the SID meeting today,
Oh, yes, good news.
the fire station's contract has been signed except for by one person, and he's not in town.
Yeah,
And
we'll
he
sign it
was
as soon as
not
it gets
going
back.
to sign it. So we are moving forward.
That's good news.
Should
That
have
is good
everything- Probably should have everything for Thursday, shouldn't we?
That should be, well, we're waiting on one more paper.
Oh, yeah, one more.
The easement paper for the road. We've got the draft, but I don't have the final. Jody and John got that, but we're, hopefully we'll have things that we need to sign or to go over. But I think he's the one that has to sign everything for the city. And we can get that done.
That is good news.
Thank you,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you to both of you. I know that's a lot of work
Long
on
process.
everybody's part.
So that's kind of, I didn't mention, did you look at the 2026 holiday schedule?
I didn't get
I don't
that
think I
piece of
have
paper.
that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought everybody got
Does
it.
anybody have that?
I think that was in the packet.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get it with this.
No, it wasn't in there. It's in the council packet.
It's the same this year too.
Yes.
Holidays,
Hey, Mayor,
it's the state holiday.
I don't want to dredge that subject back up, but I do have a question. I would like, if you can, to get,
Hey, Paul, hold on, we're still doing business.
if you can, in no rush, I do have a kind of a legal question about how all this has turned out, and that is, since they are appointed by you, if they were to go out there and get in any kind of trouble, mess anything, who's responsible at the end of the day? Is that gonna fall back on the city? So if you have time to shoot that question to,
I'll ask John, and then also, I wish I had it in front of me, but I was pretty sure in that 86-2102, it says in there that the special administrator is not held liable for anything unless it's maliciously or criminally.
so that would
Unless
keep the
unless
city from being.
The special administrator does something maliciously or criminally.
Right, okay,
Not the improvement district.
Yeah.
It's only if the special, but I'll ask John to I'll ask the city attorney. Okay. Make double sure.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have a cautionary tale for folks that have commercial businesses. I've got quite a few friends that have their businesses in various parts of the country, and it appears that the waste management for a company, because it is national now, has started doing stuff online, or not online, but when they start picking up the trash, as you perhaps already know, the dumpsters have to be closed, and they can't be overfilled. What some of the actual truck drivers are doing is opening up the covers and sticking their boxes and everything. Now, this is the waste management people, it's not the folks that actually own it. And so they have been telling a lot of my friends to start actually putting a video cam right where they have their trash cans. And I'm not saying that ours would do that, but this is friends from 7 different states now that have already experienced this, because the waste management board would charge more money for someone coming off the truck to put the stuff in the actual barrel itself, or the bin with the lid on before it goes up on the truck.
Okay.
All of the, my understanding is all of the trucks with Waste Connections are equipped with multiple cameras.
Well, that's true, but the nice part is, thankfully, I know 2 of the 7, thankfully, had their own cam, because the waste management said, oh, no, they would never do that. They've already got lawsuits.
But if you call the supervisor for Waste Connections and you have any issue with any location pickup, they can go back and pick up the video and audio. And so it's kind of a moot point because Waste Connections already has that covered.
In different states, and I certainly wouldn't want any of that to happen to anybody here or even outside of the city. 7, I thought, was an awful lot across the country that I know, and it would be a city.
That's all I got. Is anybody
Motion to adjourn.
good? I want to thank everybody for being here.
Yes.
Participating tonight. Thank you, council members, for being here.
Absolutely.
Sorry that it lasted so long, but kind of like Miss Pamela said, I think it was about time. We needed this.
I like good long productive meetings.
Yeah.
Hey, just a reminder though, reach out to the other council members, tell them to just hit that play button and watch this meeting and be ready for Thursday.
There will be a test.
Always there, always come. With the monitor.
I know we can need it sometimes.
I'd like to thank you too for being